Chapter 395. That's right, it's me. Zhang Xiu didn't deny it. He didn't need to deny it, intentionally or otherwise. He didn't care what Bai Zhuang thought of him. Bai Zhuang sized up Zhang Xiu. I let you go that day and even left Zhongnan for you. Yet you still came to me today. You don't know what's good for you. Zhang Xiu smiled coldly. Zhongnan was his territory. Why would he need anyone to give it to him? However, Bai Zhuang's tone changed. However, you're quite admirable. You know that I have the heaven and earth sword aura, yet you still want to come to East China. You know it's impossible, yet you still do it. You care about your country. Today, I'll let you go. But remember, from now on, East China is forbidden to you. You're not allowed to take half a step in. Phew. Hearing this, Dong Long breathed a sigh of relief. He was reporting the situation to the head of the headquarters. He immediately said, "That's great. Bai Zhuang let Zhang Luoxia go. Zhang Luoxia has escaped." The head of the headquarters wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. "That's great." Long Yingqing also breathed a sigh of relief for Zhang Xiu. Although she had a lot of friction with Zhang Xiu, deep down, she didn't want Zhang Xiu to die here. Zhang Xiu said, "What if I say no?" "What do you mean?" Zhang Xiu said, "You've all got it wrong. I've never come to East China for anyone but myself. I'm not here for the so-called Hua Nation or the people of the so-called safe zone. I've only ever had one goal, and that is to make myself stronger. Nothing else matters." Looking at the cold and arrogant Zhang Xiu, Bai Zhuang said, "Don't tell me you want a share of the purple chi fruit too?" The few gods present were disdainful of him. They had already split the fruit. They couldn't give up another share. The cake was only so big. If someone else took a share, it meant that they had less. No one was willing to do so. The spirit master waved his cane gently and interrupted, "Zhang Luoxia, you're also on the divine list. According to what we just said, everyone on the divine list can have a share of the loot. You can have a share." Spirit Master. Ben Fei. The expressions of the deities present changed, and they were very confused. If Zhang Luoxia took a share, not only would they have less, but so would the spiritual masters. Why should he let this Hua Nation guy take advantage of him? The spiritual master said, "Then it's settled." The spiritual sorcerer was the only god in the top 10 of the divine list. Moreover, he was different from the others. He did not rely on strength or martial arts. Instead, he relied on a unique spiritual attack. When an ordinary person's spiritual power reached the level of a god, it was called divine thought. It did not attack the physical body, but directly attacked the soul. No one present dared to offend him. Perhaps he could easily destroy your soul and turn you into a dried-up corpse. No matter how unconvinced everyone was, no one dared to object after the spiritual master said this. Unless they all tacitly rushed up and killed the spiritual master together. But the gun shoots the bird that sticks out. The moment he attacked, there would definitely be someone unlucky, but no one wanted to be that unlucky person. They could only endure. Dog **T. This Chinese person really stepped on dog **T. The Golden Knight said angrily. Poor almsgiver. The deities all looked at Zhang Xiu with disdain. Even Long Yingqing was amazed at Zhang Xiu's good luck. He actually met such a good person like the spiritual master. However, she heard Zhang Xiu say coldly, "I won't share the purple chi fruit with you." "Oh." The Golden Knight said excitedly, "Spiritual master, did you hear that? He gave it up of his own accord. We didn't force him." The others were puzzled. The treasure was already in his hands, but he didn't want it. There was actually such a person in the world. Long Yingqing's red lips moved. She wanted to persuade him, but she realized that she was stupid. Whether he wanted it or not had nothing to do with her. Moreover, if he didn't want it, she could get more. Zhang Xiu said indifferently, "I'm going to kill you for free. I'm also going to take the purple chi fruit." Hua. There was an uproar. What? The deities' expressions all changed. The stone titan laughed and said, "Zhang Luoxia, You want to monopolize the purple chi fruit by yourself? Do you have the ability? Zhang Xiu's eyelids lifted slightly. He said indifferently, "Those who just set foot in the valley, kill." "Why are you wasting words with him? Kill him." The Golden Knight had been unhappy with Zhang Xiu for a long time. Suddenly, golden light shone from his body. "You don't know what's good for you." The Spirit Master was also angry. A complete purple chi fruit could give birth to a superior god, but once it was divided, then everyone would still be a medium god. What he pursued was a kind of balance. In addition, there was another reason why he had spoken out to help Zhang Xiu, but Zhang Xiu did not appreciate it, and he could not let go of this favor, so he could only die. A mere deity with a ranking of less than 50 wanted to monopolize the purple chi fruit. This was challenging their bottom line. It was simply ridiculous. Dong Long was originally going crazy with joy. He was reporting the good news to his leader, but now he was completely dumbfounded. "What the hell, Mr. Jiang? What the hell are you doing? Are you looking for trouble? Can't you clear your head? Can you?" Too arrogant. The leaders of the mercenaries and special departments were also very surprised. Not to mention the 8 deities present, Zhang Luoxia might not be able to take down any one of them. "Let me do it." The one who stepped forward was Bai Zhuang. His voice was like thunder coming from his throat. His whole body had turned into a white light and shot out. Zhang Xiu looked back and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. "The sword of heaven and earth?" With a boom, Zhang Xiu's aura burst forth in an instant. At this moment, it was as if a tornado was wreaking havoc in the valley. When the violent power burst forth, the weeds under his feet were uprooted and sent flying. When the airflow rushed out, even the rocks in the distance cracked with a bang. It was an earth-shattering sight. Whoosh! Bai Zhuang didn't care at all. He was hundreds of meters away. A fierce sword aura flashed out. The friction between the sword aura and the air turned into a blazing white light. Like a sword immortal, the sword was pointed at Zhang Xiu. The sword aura was solid. In the midst of Zhang Xiu's powerful momentum, the sword aura was also earth-shattering. The sword aura crossed hundreds of meters in an instant, leaving a sword mark in the air. In the whistling sound of the sword aura had arrived. No one could imagine the speed of this flying sword. Only when the sword was out did they feel the earth-shattering power. "This is Bai Zhuang's sword aura?" Everyone's expression changed. Long Yingqing had repeatedly overestimated the power of Bai Zhuang's sword Dao after he had the sword aura of heaven and earth. But when this sword appeared, she knew that she had still underestimated him. Long Yingqing felt that she might not be able to take this kind of power, not to mention working together with Zhang Xiu to take him down. She was afraid that she would be killed by him. The sword aura of heaven and earth? Zhang Xiu's eyes flashed. Thunder and lightning raged in them. His momentum had already exploded. Suddenly he shouted angrily, "Hong! How could the sword aura of heaven and earth compare to the first sound of heaven and earth? Hong Long, Hong Long!" The moment this incantation was uttered, the entire world shook. White clouds surged in the sky within a radius of several hundred kilometers, and violent winds blew. At the end of the east, a red sun slowly rose into the sky, and its light illuminated the earth, competing with the heavens and the earth. Chi chi chi! The sword aura's speed suddenly slowed. The air seemed to become a great resistance. Light constantly exploded at the tip of the sword aura, forcibly blocking it. Roar! Zhang Xiu roared in anger, and a violent stream of air gushed out from behind him. It was as if a tsunami was sweeping out, pushing forward. Too strong. The god of wind was dumbfounded and tongue-tied. She was known as the wind god. She could control the power of the wind. She was known as one of the best, but compared to Zhang Xiu, she was more than 100,000 miles away. When the tsunami-like wind rushed out, it blew and exploded. Not a single blade of grass remained on the ground, and rocks were shattered. Sword aura of heaven and earth. Cut. Bai Zhuang was also shocked. Zhang Xiu's strength was far beyond his imagination. His whole body flashed and rushed toward the tsunami. The surface of his body was covered with a layer of sparkling white light. From the shape, it was a flying sword. It was the sword aura of heaven and earth that he had absorbed. Humph! Zhang Xiu coldly snorted. Without even looking, he waved his hand. A sharp white light flashed out. Bai Zhuang's sword aura seemed to go against the power of the world. Zhang Xiu's sword aura followed the power of the world. It was faster, fiercer, stronger, and invincible. Pang! The sword aura collided with the sword aura. Chapter 396. Clashing head-on with the sword light of heaven and earth? Everyone present was shocked. Zhang Xiu's strength was indeed beyond everyone's expectations. The strength he had displayed was definitely not below the top 50 on the divine list. Everyone had underestimated him, but he was not strong enough to clash head-on with the sword light of heaven and earth. The sharpness of the sword could be counted in the world. He would definitely lose. Only Bai Zhuang, who was in the middle of it, had a drastic change in expression when he saw this flying knife that didn't seem to come from this world. He already regretted taking it head-on. At that moment, his entire body was filled with sword energy. He released all of his divine power and condensed it into a solid, transparent sword light. When the flying knife hit the tip of the sword, cracking sounds could be heard from time to time. Cracks appeared on the tip of the sword. Soon, the fragments bounced off and the sword was broken into pieces. Bang! 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 The cracking sounds were endless, like firecrackers. The fragments on the sword were broken and bounced off one by one. From the tip of the sword to the body of the sword to the hilt, they dissipated into nothingness. My God! The sword light of heaven and earth was destroyed by the knife light. Chirp! An incomparably angry and sorrowful cry resounded. A huge bird rushed out from inside. It was Bai Zhuang's main body. He flapped his wings and rushed toward Zhang Xiu at a speed more than 10 times faster than before. The power of the demon god's body was fully displayed at this moment. At the same time, his body was covered with sword qi. The light shot out with the wind and raged to the extreme. However, Zhang Xiu's face showed a cruel smile. It was just as he had expected. When he used the first sound of heaven and earth for the first time, there was no scene of a scorching sun rising in the sky. At that time, the strange world had not yet arrived. Now, when he used the first sound of heaven and earth, the scorching sun rose in the sky. This should be the arrival of another world. Bai Zhuang's so-called sword light of heaven and earth existed in another world. When it came to the world created by Zhang Xiu, its power would be greatly reduced. The power of this move was similar to the so-called immortal realm and god realm, but its level was more than one level higher. For example, if he could form a complete world body, the sword light of heaven and earth emitted from his world body would be weakened to the level of ordinary light shining on him. He would be unharmed. Slash. Zhang Xiu took a step forward, dragging an object that seemed to weigh more than 10,000 jin. Suddenly, the endless power of the void behind him gathered in his hand, and an illusory blade of light was formed, drawing the power of heaven and earth. Boom! The saber light was about 50 meters long and slashed down. At this moment, there was only a white saber light left in the sky and an obvious spatial dislocation in the sky. So strong. The mercenaries behind him, as well as the leaders of the special departments of various countries, were all amazed. As for the experts on the divine list, their expressions had completely changed. They knew all too well how strong Bai Zhuang was. He was a middle-level demon god with the heaven and earth sword light. No one dared to resist the heaven and earth sword light head-on. Although the spirit master was ranked higher than Bai Zhuang, he still had to avoid the heaven and earth sword light and use his divine consciousness to attack. Rip! As the saber light descended, the saber will burst forth. It was like the horn of an antelope, marvelous as if it was made by nature. After Bai Zhuang revealed his true form, his speed was extremely fast. This was the natural advantage of bird-type Yao gods. Under the pursuit of the saber will, he flashed back and forth, whistling through the air. However, he was ultimately unable to dodge. Pfft! The saber light slashed Bai Zhuang's body. Bai Zhuang groaned and his body paused in the air. Then, the saber light penetrated his body and slammed into the distant mountain. With a loud bang, the towering trees collapsed and the mountain rocks cracked. The saber light spread for hundreds of meters. Its power was truly terrifying. Bai Zhuang landed on the ground and staggered. His face was extremely pale and he kept vomiting blood. He could no longer stand and knelt on the ground with one knee. No, impossible. Bai Zhuang was shocked and even more puzzled. The heaven and earth sword light was invincible at the same level. Zhang Xiu's saber light was not as strong as his. Furthermore, his speed was the best in the world. Even airplane was far behind him. However, he could not dodge Zhang Xiu's saber will. What was more frightening was that the saber light had severely injured his demon god body. He was defeated. He was completely defeated. No, he was crushed. From the beginning to the end, he did not have the slightest advantage. Pfft. Bai Zhuang could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Blood overflowed from his eyes and slowly melted. His eyes turned crimson red and blood flowed out. His eyes completely lost their light. With a plop, he fell to the ground. Dead, dead. Bai Zhuang was killed? Everyone's eyes widened at this moment. They could not believe it. A middle-level demon god with the heaven and earth sword light was killed by Zhang Xiu just like that. The excitement in his heart and the shock in his mind caused his hair to stand on end. He won. Dong Long was stunned. He felt like he was dreaming. However, Bai Zhuang was really lying on the ground. Blood kept flowing out and mixed with the surrounding rocks and weeds, forming a tragic scene. He won. Hey. The leader could not hear clearly. The one who was the most shocked was our school beauty Long Yingqing. She tightly pursed her lips and thought back to what she had said to Zhang Xiu. She had become a joke. He didn't even need to work together with you. After being shocked, all that was left was awkwardness. Her face had been slapped so hard. Zhang Luoxia, you dare to kill in front of me? The spirit master's white eyebrows furrowed together as he roared angrily. You're courting death. Along with this voice, an invisible spiritual force spread out like a wave. There was no sound, but everyone present immediately covered their heads in pain. Golden Knight, kill him. Golden Knight Douglas rushed out. The Spirit Master attacked Zhang Xiu's soul, and the Golden Knight took the opportunity to kill him. Holy Light Slash. The two gods worked together. 2 against 1. Despicable. Dong Long shouted angrily. Don't you have any shame? One of you is ranked 9th on the divine list, and the other is ranked 23rd. How dare you work together to kill someone who is ranked below 50? However, Dong Long's curses did not resonate with the people around him. It was as if they were willing to see Zhang Xiu being killed because Zhang Xiu was a Hua national. They hated it. Moreover, they also hated the fact that Hua Nation had sealed itself off. Soul attack. Zhang Xiu's glabella flashed white, and a fierce force rushed directly into his divine essence. Ha! A smile appeared on his face. Little did he know that the middle-level deity guarding this world had been defeated by his divine thought. A strange and evil soul light flickered in his eyes as he softly spat out, consonants changing charm, flying soul crossing the border. Silence. An even more powerful divine essence rushed out in an invisible and traceless manner, rushing directly into the Spirit Master's divine essence. Boom! The Spirit Master felt his divine essence explode violently. The world turned white, and he could no longer see anything. The light in his eyes dimmed, and his body fell backward. His divine essence was directly destroyed. Then, Zhang Xiu looked up and stared at the golden-haired man, Douglas, who was emitting golden holy light all over his body like a battle armor. It was a duel between the holy light and the blade light. In Zhang Xiu's world, the sword light of heaven and earth was destroyed by the blade light. The holy light, the golden light, was cut open. The Golden Knight's eyes were full of horror. He knew that his holy light was not as good as Zhang Xiu's blade light, but he attacked because of the Spirit Master's attack. At this time, shouldn't Zhang Xiu be suffering the destruction of his soul? He looked back and saw that the spirit master had fallen to the ground. What? The golden knight screamed in his heart. The blade light slashed fiercely. Before the blade light arrived, the powerful blade intent had already arrived. He finally understood why Zhang Xiu couldn't dodge it even though he was so fast. Zhang Xiu's blade intent had reached the realm of heart integrated with blade. Under the cover of blade intent, no action or intention could escape from Zhang Xiu's heart. How could one dodge when everything was seen through? Rip. The golden knight was cut open horizontally in the air by the blade light, and 2 corpses fell from the sky. God! Damn it! Baka! Damn it! Seeing the spirit master and the golden knight were killed in an instant, the foreign friends behind were so scared that they screamed. Zhang Xiu's eyes were indifferent, and his killing intent was overwhelming. He rushed toward them with his blade. Today, none of you can leave. All of you will die here. Chapter 397. He killed 3 gods in a row, and in an instant. The light between heaven and earth was broken, and even the spiritual attacks of the spiritual masters could not do anything to him. Instead, they were killed by the backlash. The Golden Knight, who was said to be the strongest in terms of overall combat strength, was cut in half with a single slash. The remaining 5 gods' faces changed drastically. Strong, too strong. Which idiot made the divine list? Was this the strength of the 53rd on the divine list? What kind of joke is this? F***ck your whole family. Seeing Zhang Xiu charging at them with his knife, looking like he was going to kill them all, even though they were powerful gods, they were scared out of their wits. They fled in panic. If this was in the past, they would have called the police. But now, who could protect them? Crazy, crazy? Julie, the wind god, was so scared that she turned around and fled in a hurry. Wind was known for its speed. As the violent ecstasy swept over, she was blown thousands of meters away in an instant. Trying to escape? Rise. An even more violent gust of wind swept over like a tsunami, pushing along the ground. At first, it was only 1 meter, then suddenly grew to more than 10 meters, then 100 meters, and finally 1,000 meters high, spanning half of the valley. Oh my God, he can cast spells so quickly and is so strong? The wind god screamed in her heart. Who is the wind god? Who has awakened the law of wind? Such a huge hurricane, is this the power of a medium god? Before she could think carefully, the wind god, Julie, was swept into the huge hurricane along with the broken stones and trees. She screamed in pain. As Zhang Xiu continued to chant, her body was twisted and elongated. Finally, she was squeezed and torn into a soul line. Her terrified screams echoed in the air. Another god was killed. Run. Poison Shadow saw that the situation was not right. He had just witnessed the power of Zhang Xiu's flying knife. In fact, he was already shocked, but with so many experts around him, he was not worried. But now, Zhang Xiu's strength was far beyond his imagination. If he did not leave now, the previous 4 gods would be his examples. All of a sudden, the figures transformed into 3 groups of afterimages and fled in different directions. So, a sharp flash of light flashed through the void. Wherever it passed, the sky seemed to be still. The fallen leaves were suspended in the air, and the dust on the ground did not fall down. Only the flashing white light of the blade flew past. Ah! Mournful screams were heard as the snake, scorpion, leopard, and other remnant souls were pierced through, turning into black smoke and dissipating. Poison Shadow looked back and widened his eyes in horror. The flying dagger carried unimaginable speed and power as it suddenly shot into his body. The huge force sent him flying and nailed him to the trunk of the giant tree with a clink. Ah! His face contorted in pain as he screamed miserably. His body continued to emit black smoke. The poison in his body quickly devoured his flesh and blood as he lost control of his strength. With a bang, the poison burst out of his flesh and blood, turning into countless tiny worms. They were immediately crushed into powder by the saber intent and turned into black smoke. Ah! Shirtai Tan was so shocked that his expression froze, and he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Zhang Luoxia, is this strong? This is too terrifying. His speed was slow, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to escape. Rumble, rumble. His entire body turned into a mountain rock, and his body grew to more than 5 meters long. The mountain rock emitted a gorgeous dark golden light. Stone spirit body? Zhang Xiu's cold gaze swept over, bringing with it a cold light. The inside of Shirtai Tan's body, from the inside out, was no longer flesh and blood. Regardless of whether it was his bones, muscles, or heart, everything had turned into stone. It was child's play to take on machine guns and cannons head-on. Even nuclear weapons might not be able to kill him. Spirit bodies were rare. It was a pity that people who were born with good physical talents usually had low intelligence. The Shirtai Tan in front of him was one of them. He couldn't cultivate it all and could only display his strength in a barbaric manner. Do you want to compete with me in strength? Seeing Shirtai Tan rise into the air and throw a punch at him from above, Zhang Xiu's lips curled into a cold smile. The divine pattern on his left arm glowed even more brightly. In Zhang Xiu's world, he already had a great advantage, let alone brute force that didn't have any laws. Boom! Shirtai Tan's heavy punch landed heavily on Zhang Xiu's body. It hit. Shirtai Tan was overjoyed, but in the next moment, his joy turned into extreme fear. He hit Zhang Xiu with all his strength, but he didn't move at all. How is this possible? Shirtai Tan cried out. His punch was enough to flatten a small mountain, but Zhang Xiu took it head-on and came out unscathed. He didn't even move his feet. After the extreme fear in his eyes, there was a deathly stillness. He was in despair. In front of the huge gap, he was in complete despair. His confidence collapsed, and his spirit collapsed. Go to hell. Zhang Xiu took a step back and threw out his right fist fiercely. Boom, boom, boom. The powerful speed of the punch caused the surrounding air to shoot out like a rocket. Boom! The chi force smashed onto the stone titan's body. Under the powerful pressure, the surface of his skin was the first to shatter into shattered rocks, followed by his body. Finally, his entire being turned into countless shattered rocks. The chi force plowed out a 30-odd meter long groove on the ground behind him. The groove at the end was 5 to 6 meters wide, and the depth was over 1 meter. Then, the broken stones in the sky slowly fell. Another one killed. Zhang Xiu in front of them was like a demon god. He was so powerful that it made the world tremble. Everyone was completely shocked. They could only stare blankly at him. His method of killing gods was like a god killing mortals. Gods were no more than ants in front of him. In the blink of an eye, 2 more gods were killed. This man was like a mad demon. He harvested the lives of the gods like he was mowing grass. Their heaven-defying strength and valiant bodies were like weeds on the ground in front of him. He held the scythe of the Grim Reaper in his hand. 7 gods. In the blink of an eye, 7 gods on the divine roll, all of whom were said to be mid-level gods, were gone just like that. The river is falling. Hua Nation, Zhang Luoxia. The expressions of the mercenaries and the leaders of the special departments of various countries outside the valley had completely stiffened. Their eyes were completely dull. Subconsciously, they wanted to escape, but their legs were firmly nailed to the ground. Their bodies were trembling. Fear invaded everything, making them feel at a loss. It's too scary. Dong Long was also stunned. Even though he was from Hua Nation, he was also shocked by Zhang Xiu's strength and ferocity. This person could become a god if he did good, but this person would become a demon if he did evil. Long Yingqing's face was already as pale as paper. Her forehead and the tip of her nose were covered in cold sweat. She tried hard not to let her hands tremble. She raised her eyes and looked at Zhang Xiu, who was coming towards her. At this moment, she seemed to recall the time when Zhang Xiu knocked down all of her followers in the gymnasium on campus and locked the door of the gymnasium. As a result, A scene that she would never be able to forget for the rest of her life played out. A huge shadow loomed over her heart and her spirit was about to collapse at this moment. Yes, the world had changed. From an ordinary woman, she had become a mid-level goddess. She was high and mighty and looked down on all living things. She even thought that Zhang Xiu was already below her. But he was still the same old man. No matter how strong she became, no matter how strong her helpers became, they were still crushed by him. To him, it was as if there was no difference at all. But heavens, those were 7 middle gods. One of them had slaughtered 7 people on the god ranking list. She didn't want to admit it, but the truth was there. She didn't dare to be arrogant. When Zhang Xiu walked in front of her, she couldn't support herself anymore. Her whole body had gone soft and she looked up at Zhang Xiu with a pitiful and pleading look. Zhang Xiu's cold voice rang out. "I said that I don't need to form an alliance with you." Long Yingqing shook her head at first, but she immediately realized that she had misunderstood. She quickly nodded. What kind of joke was this? Everyone was killed by him. What alliance did she have to form? How ironic. Thinking back to how arrogant she was in the restaurant, she felt embarrassed. "You still want to fight with me for the purple chi fruit?" Long Yingqing was so scared that she hurriedly shook her head. She didn't want to live anymore. Those who fought with him were all killed. "Can you not kill me?" Zhang Xiu said. "It's hard to say. It depends on your performance." Long Yingqing's expression became very complicated. Chapter 398. Long Yingqing thought that she had already gotten rid of the past, but at this moment, she realized that nothing had changed. The guy in front of her was her nemesis. Meeting him would be bad luck. Performance? How do you want me to perform? Even her voice had become timid. In fact, from the moment Zhang Xiu splashed the tomato egg soup on her face, the incomparably arrogant goddess heart had already been deeply imprinted with an imprint. Facing Zhang Xiu, in the depths of her heart, there was an indescribable desire to be conquered. Looking at her pitiful eyes, Zhang Xiu said, "If you can't figure it out, then go back and slowly think about it. Now, leave the valley and don't approach." Then, he turned around and said in a cold voice with a commanding tone, "And all of you, leave the mountain. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy." Hua, in a moment, everyone began to retreat. They only hated that they were born with one more leg so that they couldn't run fast enough. They were afraid that if they were too late, they would become a ghost under Zhang Xiu's blade. Zhang Xiu's strength was not only his unimaginable strength, but also his killing heart. His actions were ruthless, killing with one strike, showing no mercy. He didn't even say a word of nonsense and didn't even have the chance to beg for mercy. Who would dare to disobey such a person? If it was in the past, he would be a tyrant. "Quick, let's go." Although they knew that there was a purple chi fruit there, and because of it, they had lost 7 deities, but no one dared to hesitate. They only had one life, and everyone had to consider it carefully. Even Long Yingqing had no choice but to leave the mountain, let alone them. Too terrifying. Zhang Luoxia was too terrifying. They were all killed. All the deities have been killed. At this moment, the minds of the fleeing crowd were filled with the scene of Zhang Xiu's massacre. Bai Zhuang, Spirit Master, Golden Knight, Wind God, Stone Titan. Which one of them wasn't an ambitious and ruthless person? Even when they joined forces, they were still crushed by Zhang Xiu. In front of him, they didn't even have the strength to fight back. The world would once again be shocked by Zhang Luoxia. Descending upon the 9 mysteries to cleanse the heavens, 1,000 years of hard work. Even without a square inch, it would still be outstanding. That man, who was like a god and a demon, would truly be erected in the east and become the god that illuminated the east. That's great, that's great. East Dragon was extremely excited. As he ran away from the main mountain range, he shouted excitedly. As soon as he reached the periphery, he contacted the headquarters. At this moment, the leaders of the headquarters were burning with anxiety. Could something have happened? Just now, They had heard that a fight was about to break out, but the sudden loss of contact left them with no choice but to speculate. It wasn't just Jiang Xiu, they even suspected that something had happened to East Dragon. Ding ling ling. The phone on the table rang. Hello, hello. The leader picked up the phone and shouted excitedly, "Is this East Dragon? Is it East Dragon? How's the situation on your side? Has Zhang Luoxia fought with the enemy?" East Dragon said excitedly, "He killed them all, he killed them all. Killed them all." At this moment, East Dragon's blood was boiling. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. That's too amazing. It's simply unimaginable. Zhang Luoxia fought 7 gods alone. With his shocking strength, he crushed 7 gods and came out on top. What are you talking about? The leader felt like he was in a dream. We won, we won. East Dragon shouted excitedly, "Zhang Luoxia killed Bai Zhuang is dead." Killed? You, are you sure? The leader's voice was trembling. Absolutely. Not only Bai Zhuang, but also the Spirit Master, the Golden Knight, the Stone Titan, and the Wind God Shen. They were all killed by Zhang Luoxia. He fought against so many heroes alone, it's truly earth-shattering. East Dragon sighed in amazement. The leader couldn't believe it. These people were all overlords of their own regions, but they were all killed by Zhang Luoxia alone. In the near future, this will take the world by storm. When that time comes, Zhang Luoxia's name will surely shock the world once again. At this moment, there was the sound of hurried footsteps outside the office. A female secretary rushed in with a document and said, "Leader, we've intercepted a secret document from Smith Barney. It says that Zhang Luoxia killed 7 gods, including Bai Zhuang, the Spirit Master, the Wind God Shen, and the Poison Shadow." The entire office fell silent at once. Then, there was a burst of earth-shattering cheers. "Victory! We've won!" The leader, who was in his 60s, couldn't help but raise his arms and shout, "After this battle, Hua Nation will have no worries, no worries." Zhang Luoxia lived up to his reputation as the strongest in Hua Nation. Contact Dio Yutai immediately. Don't encrypt it, send it in plain text. This was a major event worthy of national celebration. This victory defended the country's dignity and deterred the weak. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was sitting cross-legged in the valley. Night would soon fall. There was no longer any purple qi in the sky. He would have to wait until tomorrow morning. However, it was precisely because of the scarcity of purple qi that this was Jiang Xiu's opportunity. The purple qi fruit had already manifested. If it didn't show itself, Jiang Xiu wouldn't be able to see it. When the purple qi was absent, the purple qi fruit would inevitably appear, just like a hungry person looking for food. Jiang Xiu kept his divine sense spread out. Once the purple qi fruit appeared, Jiang Xiu would definitely be able to sense it. However, this wait lasted until late at night, when the moon was high in the sky. He. A childlike laughter could be heard. "It's here." Jiang Xiu's heart skipped a beat, but his expression didn't change. He didn't even change the rhythm of his breathing. The purple qi fruit senses were very sharp. It would immediately disappear if there was a trace of abnormality. Jiang Xiu saw a purple fruit the size of a newborn baby. There were even a few leaves on its head. It was jumping around happily in the valley. He wasn't in a hurry. He reached out to grab it. No matter how fast you were, you couldn't be faster than it. The purple qi fruit saw the pancake under the tree. It approached it and sniffed. The pancake was made by the old man. There were sesame seeds sprinkled on it. Although it wasn't hot anymore, it was still very fragrant, especially for people who were hungry. Sure enough, just as Jiang Xiu expected, the purple qi fruit reached out its carrot-like hand and picked up the pancake. However, it didn't notice the red string on it. It opened its mouth and took a big bite. Then, it chewed vigorously. A satisfied expression appeared on its purple chubby face. It ate very happily. Perhaps this was the best thing it had ever eaten. It ate very quickly. Such a big pancake would take a long time for an adult to finish. Its small body swallowed the pancake in just a few bites. It was full of energy. It touched its mouth, wanting more. Then, it discovered that there was something strange in its mouth. It reached out and pulled on a very thin red string. "Have you eaten your fill?" Zhang Xiu's voice was like the curse of a demon from hell. The purple chi fruit was shocked. It immediately turned invisible and disappeared without a trace. Zhang Xiu naturally couldn't see it. The invisibility of the purple chi fruit was an innate ability of its race. Even if he used all kinds of eye techniques, he still couldn't see through it. Of course, there were people in the immortal martial continent who could do it. Those people were almost all peak existences. Moreover, they were from a special race. Zhang Xiu couldn't do it. However, he wasn't anxious at all. He could see the red string drilling into the pile of grass seeds. Zhang Xiu calmly walked over and parted the grass. The red string sank into the ground. "So it's here." Zhang Xiu reached out and parted the soil. A purple fruit emitting a luster was in the soil. There was also a red string in the abdomen. "I got it." He reached out and pulled the purple chi fruit out. The fruit was sparkling and translucent. The purple energy was like a spider web. Moreover, there was a purple liquid flowing in the veins. It was very beautiful. Zhang Xiu sat down cross-legged, opened his mouth, and abruptly swallowed the fruit. The huge fruit melted as soon as it entered his mouth, and directly fell into his stomach. Next, Zhang Xiu was going to go into seclusion for a long period of time. He wanted to absorb the huge amount of energy in the purple chi fruit. Usually, in this kind of situation, one would need to go into seclusion and have someone to protect them. However, Zhang Xiu didn't have such conditions. Besides, he was also somewhat impatient. He felt that he had been stuck at the mid-level for too long. He really wanted to break through and experience what it was like to be a high-level deity. He didn't know if there were any high-level deities after the laws of heaven and earth were broken by the arrival of another world. Chapter 399. After swallowing the purple chi fruit, Zhang Xiu's body had enough spiritual power to stimulate the divine body, and the divine cultivation method he had was enough to support him to take another step forward. Rumble, rumble. Zhang Xiu sat cross-legged in the middle of the mountain with his arms crossed in front of his chest. As he breathed in and out, thunderous rumbles could be heard from his body. The sound spread out and resounded throughout the entire mountain range. It was as if an immortal was nodding his head, causing all the mortals to be shocked. A mid-level god was stepping into a high god, and this step was still limited by the young god. Therefore, Zhang Xiu could seize the time to pass the most difficult part, which was to condense a godhood in the divine essence. The formation of a godhood almost determined the progress of a divine cultivator. The principle was that the lower the realm of a god, the easier it was to form a godhood. However, when one comprehended the laws and condensed a godhood, one's realm would inevitably increase. This was a paradox. Zhang Xiu's current choice was to directly give up the formation of a godhood and pursue the divine position of a higher god. As for the godhood, he would pursue it when he reached the higher god level. Some people formed a godhood while improving their divine position, while others improved their divine position first. When they reached the higher god level, they would find a way to condense a godhood, break through the limits of the young god, and become an earth god. Zhang Xiu chose the latter. In advance, strength was the most important. He had to go through both of these paths. As for the laws, Zhang Xiu had already grasped the laws of heavenly fire. In addition, the first sound of heaven and earth seemed to contain the laws of the world. These were all just the beginning. The laws of the world were a kind of power that originated from the comprehension of the soul. It was different from immortal martial arts. Immortal martial arts could be used as long as one's strength reached a certain level. However, the laws of the world were something that one had grasped before. One had to comprehend them again, obtain the approval of heaven and earth, and then condense a godhood. In the future, one could use the godhood. Whoosh whoosh. Since Jiang Xiu came back, he had never cultivated so comfortably. It was as if he had returned to the immortal martial continent. When he was in seclusion, his realm had advanced by leaps and bounds. It made him happy and never tired. The purple chi fruit in his body was absorbed bit by bit. In one day, he had refined less than 10 drops of purple cloud nectar. His entire body was emitting a charming purple light. It flashed and was very beautiful. His entire body, his skin, his hair, his eyelashes, everything seemed to be dyed purple. The vast purple cloud energy filled every single cell in his blood, every single Protoss gene. The blood in his body rumbled and surged. From time to time, power would awaken from within. In the depths of his eyes, there seemed to be a purple light flashing in the originally pitch-black darkness. Together with another wisp of flame, it strengthened his god eyes. Who? The only thing that disappointed Jiang Xiu was that his second divine rune diagram didn't grow. There was still only one divine rune diagram. From this, Jiang Xiu deduced that the second divine rune diagram might have something to do with the saber pellet. The saber intent in the saber pellet was something that Jiang Xiu had comprehended. The other essence came from the longevity talisman. The second divine rune diagram should have something to do with the longevity talisman. Fusing with the 6th longevity runestone was the key to achieving a breakthrough in the second rune diagram. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound resounded in the mountain. The entire ground shook violently. A powerful force of heaven and earth descended from the sky. It was as if the sky was collapsing. A force that could destroy a planet suddenly entered Jiang Xiu's body. Instantly, his entire body shone brightly as he stood up. Roar, roar, roar. Roar after roar of anger. Jiang Xiu was like a mad demon. His long hair swept up into the sky like flames. A gust of wind blew around him. When the sand was blown away, the crazily surging power almost burst his body. The god cultivation technique in his body was circulating crazily. The power of the purple chi fruit had almost been completely absorbed by him. Roar! He roared again and again. Every roar spread out, causing the entire mountain to shake. Violent sound waves spread out. The towering trees in the mountain were blown by the sound waves and tilted more than 30 degrees. It was like the waves formed by the wind blowing through the fields. Boom, boom. The power in the sky was still pouring crazily into Jiang Xiu's body. Roar, roar. After an unknown period of time, the mountain range finally came to a stop. When they looked at Jiang Xiu again, he was already sitting cross-legged again. There was a strange bronze light emanating from his body that was as smooth as jade, giving off an even more ancient and mysterious feeling. He had advanced. He had become a superior god. According to the immortal martial continent, this was a proper superior god. However, in this world, he still needed to be recognized by this world and collect the light of the divine Tao that had a great effect on the soul. He wanted to enter the third layer of the great void. His divine sense was clear. For the third time, he tasted the strange feeling of entering the great void. His soul floated into the strange realm of the great void. In the first layer, there was only the vast outer space. There was no light at all. The second layer was the same. It was also empty. Next was the third layer. In the second layer, Jiang Xiu used his divine sense to defeat the mid-god who bullied him. That person seemed to have said that he was a god official of the ancestral court. He didn't know if he would meet another god official in the third layer of the great void. All of a sudden, Jiang Xiu's spiritual force reached the third heaven. It was very quiet. There was no sound at all. There was only a faint light at the very top. Jiang Xiu knew that it should be the light of the divine Tao of the third layer. It could strengthen the power of his light of the divine Tao and strengthen his soul. The pressure of the third layer made Jiang Xiu feel very strained. Humph! Jiang Xiu gritted his teeth and activated his secretary again. His divine sense reached up. Until now, he still didn't know the use of his light of the divine Tao. However, since he had chosen this divine Tao, he had to go all the way. The unknown use made Zhang Xiu curious and gave him a strong motivation to go all the way. As he went all the way up, the light of the divine Tao was not far away. Zhang Xiu felt that the direction of the light of the divine Tao this time was higher than the second layer. Did this mean that the use and importance of the light of the divine Tao would change according to the strength of the light of the divine Tao? In the immortal martial continent, many secret arts and immortal martial arts also had this kind of situation. In the beginning, they were very weak and would be bullied all the way. Then, they would suddenly undergo a qualitative change at a certain point and soar to the sky. Not to mention the immortal martial continent, even the Taiji push hands of the mortal world had this kind of characteristic. After 10 years of cultivation, they would still be weak. However, after 40 or 50 years, they would suddenly have a kind of divine power. They would be able to destroy anyone in their path and be invincible. At the extreme end of the third layer, Zhang Xiu saw a living creature. To be more precise, it was a cow. A cow eating grass. It seemed that it didn't see Zhang Xiu. How can there be such a living creature here? Out of curiosity, Zhang Xiu moved closer. He was not at the end of the third layer of heaven, but outside of the third layer of heaven. The cow was standing outside of the third layer of heaven, and beneath its feet should be the third layer of heaven. It should be in the fourth layer of heaven, eating the rich wild grass. No wonder it couldn't discover Zhang Xiu. The fourth layer, what kind of existence was that? How could it be so strange? Divine light. Since there was no divine light in the third layer, Zhang Xiu didn't have any misgivings as he collected the light of the divine Tao. He smoothly fused his soul with it. After the fusion was completed, the divine light of the divine Tao abruptly increased in strength by more than 10 times. Within Zhang Xiu's divine soul, he vaguely understood something. Zhang Xiu didn't have time to think about it. Suddenly, his whole body fell from the third layer. His thoughts returned to his body, and he slowly opened his eyes. Zhang Xiu didn't know how long it had been since he started cultivating. He remembered that the surrounding grass and trees had been destroyed by his power. Now they had grown very tall, taller than him. The wind blew, and the grass brushed his face. The fragrance of the grass entered the tip of his nose. He remembered Zhang Luan saying that in East China, the grass and trees grew very fast. But judging from the climate, it was still spring. However, he could vaguely feel that he had been in seclusion for quite a long time. It might have been a year. It's time to go back. Mom, Dad, you must be missing me. A lonely person walked through the grass above his head. The mountain breeze blew. Looking as far as the eye could see, it was a city in East China. The city was more developed, and there were more high-rise buildings. After Bai Zhuang was killed by him, Hua Nation should have taken over East China. Chapter 400. In May 2010, a year had passed since the Battle of the Titans. Zhang Luoxia rose to power and shocked the world. East China was reclaimed by Hua Nation as they wished. After the reclamation, the powerful integration ability of the Chinese nation was once again displayed. They had absorbed many of the methods of the Bai manner. Now, the Chinese nation could not be said to be completely closed off. To be more precise, it was half closed off. However, there were still some people who wanted to knock on the door of the Chinese nation. They wanted to humiliate the Chinese nation again. However, due to the fact that Hua Nation had a top-notch powerhouse, the surrounding countries did not dare to use force rashly. However, there were constant conflicts around Hua Nation. Foreigners could be seen everywhere in East China's airports. Many foreigners came to Hua Nation because they coveted the stability and safety of Hua Nation. Therefore, in the past year, Hua Nation had become the global financial center. Those rich people had invested their money in mysterious countries in the East, which also contributed to the rapid development of Hua Nation. East China was the most prominent. Many countries could visit East China without a visa. East China had also established a free trade zone. The financial market was even more shocking. The originally weak provinces caught up with Beijing, Shanghai, Jiangnan, and other places. In addition, exotic beasts lived in East China, forming a unique culture. Grandpa, tell me about the Battle of the Titans again. A 5-year-old grandson clung to his grandfather and chattered. He even shook the old man's hand with all his might. I've told you about the Battle of the Titans more than 100 times. Do you still want to listen? The old man was a little speechless. Yes, I want to listen to Zhang Luoxia. The old man's eyes were restrained. The child was only 5 years old, but his muscles and bones were already as strong as steel. The grandfather and grandson were not ordinary people. More than a year ago, Zhang Luoxia came to East China alone. This time, he came with a heavy responsibility. He carried the hopes of the entire country and the entire nation. Clang! An extremely handsome young man at the side almost fell off his seat in the waiting room. Damn, what are you talking about? You almost spilled my instant noodles. The grandson's eyes were wide open as he listened with rapt attention. His blood was boiling, and he was extremely excited. It didn't seem like he had heard it 100 times, but more like it was his first time. Who can obtain it? Even Bai Zhuang's heaven and earth sword radiance couldn't block Zhang Luoxia's flying dagger. When they clashed, the sword radiance shattered. The old man described the scene vividly, as if he was there in person. The heaven and earth sword lights were destroyed by Zhang Luoxia's flying daggers. This was still a puzzling mystery to this day. No one could explain why Zhang Xiu's flying daggers were so powerful. The reason for that was because it had already been verified that the saber lights of heaven and earth were obtained by another person. Grandpa, can you catch Zhang Luoxia's flying knife? The old man couldn't help but laugh. He couldn't help but pat his grandson's head. A trace of disappointment flashed across his eyes. If your grandfather could take it, then wouldn't he be stronger than Bai Zhuang? So far, no one has been able to catch Zhang Luoxia's flying knife. The child said, I know that no one can catch Zhang Luoxia's flying knife. He is the most powerful. That's not necessarily true. Hearing the child's words, the old man pondered seriously. The current divine list had changed a lot in the past year. It could even be said that it had changed beyond recognition. However, the top 3 had never changed. The first was the God of Thunder, the second was Zhang Luoxia, and the third was Silver Wing. Zhang Xiu suddenly rose from the 53rd place to the 2nd place by slaughtering 7 gods in one battle. This was also the biggest rise so far. During this period, many people said that Zhang Luoxia could be ranked first, but more people believed that it was the God of Thunder. The law of heaven punishment was thunder, which was of a high level. If there was anyone who could catch Zhang Xiu's flying knife, Silver Wing was one of them, and the God of Thunder was another. Grandpa, what are you thinking about? The old man came to his senses. In addition to the divine list, there were many places where many powerful people hid, such as some monster gods. There had always been a powerful mysterious force supporting the divine list. It was said that it was the national stone. The old man believed that it should be a powerful person. Maybe it was not as powerful as Zhang Luoxia, but it might be more powerful than Zhang Luoxia. No one could say for sure. The world was changing too fast. To borrow a famous saying, this was the worst time, but also the best time. Attention! Passengers! The flight to Zhongnan, SU 506. Hearing the announcement, the young man walked in with a bowl of instant noodles. The current situation in Huadong was similar to special zones such as Hong Kong. The entry and exit checks were very strict. Because there were more and more manifestations of God, they were more and more unpredictable. Therefore, all the major entrances and exits were installed with advanced detection equipment. Even energy bodies could not escape the detection of the equipment. This was extremely forbidden overseas as it was considered an invasion of privacy. However, in Huadong they had to obey. Otherwise, they would be banned from entering the country. It was this practice that ensured that the security in Huadong was more than 100 times better than overseas. The staff sitting in front of the equipment frowned. What's wrong? The equipment flashed and suddenly exploded to 9999999. It gave me a fright. The person next to him laughed. Even the divine list may not have such a high combat power. More than 90 million, close to 100 million. Hey, you don't say. A few days ago, I detected a person with more than 1 million. I think he's a demigod. Is that so? Is he handsome? How old is he? Don't be infatuated. The man with a bowl of instant noodles walked in without any obstruction. The people around him did not seem to notice him. However, he did not enter the cabin. If he did, he would be discovered. He appeared on the back of the plane and sat on it, eating instant noodles while looking at the scenery in the distance. I almost can't recognize this place. This is Huadong. If I didn't know better, I would have thought it was Shanghai or Xiongjang. It's too prosperous. The plane took off on time. As the plane glided through the night sky, it was completely unaware that someone had secretly flown in. After more than 5 hours, the plane arrived at Zhongnan Airport from Huadong. In a year, Zhongnan had also taken off rapidly. It was not inferior to Shanghai or Xiongjang at all. However, it paid more attention to greenery and cultural heritage. I reached out and flagged down a taxi. Excuse me, to Jiangyun. Hearing this, the driver turned to look at Jiang Xiu. You want to go to Jiangyuan? Why are you going there in the middle of the night? That's Mr. Jiang's place. Don't drag me into this. Jiang Xiu laughed and said, No, I won't. Do I look like someone who wants to cause trouble? Are you a divine discoverer? Jiang Xiu nodded. He still wanted to rely on the 2 fireballs on the road to get a free ride. He said, Yes, I'm a divine discoverer. I want to keep a low profile. The driver said, What's so great about it? So what if you're a divine discoverer? You still need to eat and earn money. Can you drive faster than me? As the driver spoke, he stepped on the accelerator and started driving. Jiang Xiu realized that the divine discoverer advertisement on the taxi was gone. Coupled with the driver's disdainful expression, he felt that something was wrong. The weather had changed. Perhaps the free ride had become a thing of the past. The surrounding scenery had changed a lot. In the past year, the urban construction of Hangzhou could be described as rapid. We're here. The money is Zhongyuan. You can't drive any further. Then I'll get off. Hey, you haven't paid yet. Jiang Xiu said. Then send me to the entrance of Zhongyuan. I'll get someone to get you the money. I don't have any with me. You. The driver's expression couldn't help but change. He looked at Jiang Xiu and said, You think you can bully others just because you're a divine discoverer? Are you taking a taxi? Let me tell you, the police love to punish divine discoverers like you the most. Now they're spreading the news that divine discoverers are committing more crimes. Hurry up and pay, or I'll call the police. Jiang Xiu said, I didn't say I won't pay. Send me home, and I'll get someone to get you the money. Home. Zhongyuan is your home. Who do you think you are, Mr. Jiang? Jiang Xiu had no choice but to admit it. Yes, I'm Mr. Jiang. Hello, police station? I met a lunatic here. He took a taxi and even said he was Mr. Jiang. Yes, a divine discoverer. His attitude is very bad and arrogant. Jiang Xiu was stunned. Just you wait. The police will be here soon. You want to take a taxi? But at this moment, a black Bentley passed by. With the dim lights, Jiang Xiu saw a familiar figure sitting inside. It was none other than Wang Xintong. Chapter 401. This was a coincidence. Otherwise, when the police came later, there would be a lot of trouble. She walked over and stopped the Bentley. Suddenly, a person rushed out, which really scared the driver. He slammed on the brakes, and Wang Xintong, who was resting with her eyes closed, almost fell from her seat. The driver hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, President Wang. Someone suddenly rushed out. Wang Xintong steadied her body, but her face turned cold. The most important thing for a driver was to drive the car steadily. The driver who drove the passengers out of the car could be fired. Although she was unhappy, she did not immediately fire the driver. After all, he had been with her for 2 or 3 years, and this was the first time. The driver got out of the car angrily, intending to settle the score with Zhang Xiu. However, he was stunned when he got out of the car. As Wang Xintong's driver, he had worked for Zhang Xiu several times. Of course, he recognized Zhang Xiu. However, the weak street light shone on Zhang Xiu's body. He would never forget that figure for the rest of his life. Mr. Zhang. In Jiangnan, these 3 words seemed to have magical power. Not only Jiang, but the entire Hua nation, and even the entire world, these 3 words had magical power. In the car, Wang Xintong's heart suddenly trembled. She heard it clearly in the car. Was he back? She hurriedly opened the car door and saw Zhang Xiu standing at the front of the car. Another year, more than 370 days. The strong emotions suppressed in her heart collapsed at this moment. She stepped forward and ran towards Zhang Xiu. However, she was still faced with Zhang Xiu's cold face. This person seemed to be so cold and heartless to everyone except for Chang Lingran. Under such circumstances, she reined in her emotions and said, "You're back." Her voice was still trembling slightly. Zhang Xiu nodded and walked to the other side of the car. He opened the door and ordered, "Pay for the taxi." After that, he got into the expensive Bentley. The taxi driver was stunned on the spot. Who is he?" The driver hurriedly took out a red note from his pocket and handed it over. "Keep the change." Then, he hurried back to his car. He was secretly happy for Ms. Wang. The person she missed so much was finally back. He was also happy for himself. If the guy who ran across the road was not Mr. Jiang, he would have made another mistake in his work. The taxi driver was left in a mess in the wind. The car drove towards Zhongyuan. Inside the car, Wang Xintong said with a smile, "Every time you come back, you're in a sorry state." Zhang Xiu said, "No cell phone." Wang Xintong said, "Next time when you go out, put your things away so that you don't have to travel by yourself. Fortunately, we met. Otherwise, it would be interesting if the police were involved." Zhang Xiu didn't say anything. Wang Xintong said, "Everything in Jiangnan was fine when you weren't around. Gu Shu was very cooperative with my arrangements. Your wealth has increased by more than 5 times compared to before you left. Of course, this has something to do with the economic boom in Jiangnan this year. Get to the point." Wang Xintong said, "Uncle is now a professor in Zhongqing City. Auntie is in charge of the shopping mall. Oh, right, Yunhu Street has been developed. A large shopping mall has been built. Together with Yunhu, it has created a landscape area worth more than 50 billion yuan. Okay." Wang Xintong pondered for a moment and then asked, "What else do you want to know?" Zhang Xiu shook his head. Wang Xintong's expression was a little strange, but she sighed in her heart. Besides his parents, Zhang Xiu must still be thinking about Cheng Lingran. However, he avoided talking about it. She didn't know if he had really let it go or if he was pretending. In her opinion, avoiding talking about it was still an act. Only by facing it calmly could he really let it go. She looked at Zhang Xiu with pity and even a little heartache. "By the way, are you hungry? I'll get the servants to prepare some food." On the way back, Zhang Xiu only had a bowl of instant noodles. He was really hungry and ate 3 pieces of steak in one go. "Inform Jiaoyu that I'm back. I want to take back what I deserve. Tell them to be prepared." Wang Xintong's expression changed when she heard that. The Spirit Stone of the Nation? Zhang Xiu went to East China for the Spirit Stone of the Nation. Although Jiaoyu knew about it, a year had passed and China was back on track. Many things had changed. Even Wang Xintong didn't want to cause any more trouble at this moment. Who knew if Jiaoyu would give it to her and if the Spirit Stone of the Nation would bring about great changes to China? Okay. Wang Xintong was naturally on Zhang Xiu's side. Although the trip to East China went smoothly, and Zhang Xiu's name shook the world from then on, and China was on the path to prosperity because of it, Zhang Xiu had risked his life for it. He deserved the Spirit Stone of the Nation. Okay, I'll inform them. Wang Xintong ate very little and only made a little salad to fill her stomach. It wasn't that she was afraid of getting fat. Ever since she started cultivating the immortal cultivation basics left by Zhang Xiu, her luck had been greatly depleted and she needed a lot of replenishment. No matter how much she ate, she wouldn't get fat. This was her lifestyle. You just came back. Do you want to go back to Jiangnan? I mean, do you want to go back and see your parents? Zhang Xiu responded. If he didn't go back home, his mother would definitely scold him. He was not in a hurry to go to the capital. At least, he wanted to give Diaoyu some time to react. He suddenly thought of something. "All right, do you remember that someone threatened me with a photo before I left? Did you find out who it was?" Wang Xintong said, "The matter sank into the sea after you left. But I feel that it has something to do with the various biotech groups fighting for the market in Jiangnan. The people who did this are none other than those biotech groups." "Why? Do you want me to bring up the past?" Zhang Xiu shook his head and said, "No need. It should be an old acquaintance. Outsiders won't know about this. You can check if there are any biotech groups that have connections with me." Wang Xintong said, "There are two groups. One is Pantheon Biotech. It's the one that Cheng Lingsu is in. There's someone behind it. It's the one with the surname Yi. I have to give him some face. In Jiangnan and even in the country, Pantheon Biotech is ranked at the top. The other group doesn't seem to have any connections with you, but they're in the same line as your family." Nangong. Zhang Xiu's lips curled into a smile. The girl who looked calm on the surface but was completely out of control on the inside flashed through his mind. He also remembered the passionate entanglement between him and her. Did she know about him and Cheng Lingran? It shouldn't be. Do you know who it is? Zhang Xiu shook his head. He couldn't be sure, but since he had already decided to give up, he didn't want to pursue the matter out of curiosity. Moreover, if it was really Nangong Ko or who did it, he wouldn't care about it. After all, he owed her. No matter what, a girl's innocence was the most precious thing. How about Pantheon Biotech? Wang Xintong said, "In the whole country, it's at the bottom of the A list and the top of the B list. In Jiangnan, it's only at the B list level. Take care of it." Wang Xintong said, "Oh." She suddenly felt strange. Since Zhang Xiu's relationship with his family was so bad, why would he take care of the Nangong family, which was in the same line as his family? Zhang Xiu stood up and walked to the guardrail. He gazed at the nearby Jiang Garden and the river. His figure, which was like an abyss, was completely one with the garden and this part of the world. With him here, Wang Xintong felt more confident and had a backbone. She looked at his back with infatuation and charm. "Come to my room and sit for a while. I'll dance for you." When Zhang Xiu was about to refuse, Wang Xintong said excitedly, "I'm willing. I'm willing. You've been away for a year. During this year, I've worked hard. You can treat it as a reward. I also want to have fun." Spiritual cultivation was speechless. "What do you think I am? A man?" Wang Xintong laughed. Her smile was really charming. Her eyes were full of endless joy. It was only because Zhang Xiu joked with her. "No, it's poison." The spring night sky was exceptionally quiet. A majestic wind blew across the earth, and a gorgeous flower petal fluttered in the air. With her dazzling body, she displayed all kinds of beautiful dance moves. She was a natural dancer, and every move she made was extremely seductive. At this moment, there was someone to admire her, and everything became perfect. She released her passion and wildness to her heart's content, displaying her increasingly perfect body. In the end, she crawled on the ground like a worm. Crystal beads of sweat glistened under her snow-white skin. Her chest was violently heaving and the muscles of her thighs were still twitching. It was not enough. She looked back at Zhang Xiu's eyes, which were full of charm. The next day, Zhang Xiu set out to return to Jiang City. Chapter 402. The news of Mr. Zhang's return to Jiangnan spread like wildfire. Jiangnan was shaken, especially when they heard that Mr. Zhang was going back to Zhongqing. The Jiangnan authorities immediately blocked the highway to clear the way for him. The blocking of the highway caused many people to be unhappy, especially when they were already at the entrance of the highway and were suddenly told that the highway was blocked. Anyone would be unhappy, especially when they heard that it was to make way for a big shot. It was a special treatment. They immediately exploded. Why can they go in but we can't? That's right. Let us in. This is a violation of our rights. The continuous sound of horns rose and fell, mixed with all kinds of curses. Block the road. If you don't let us get on the highway, no one can get on. Let's see who can outlast the other. At this moment, police sirens were wailing and police cars were clearing the way. This wasn't unusual, but what was shocking was the number of police cars. They were a few miles long, and there were at least 200 to 300 of them. They were like a huge dragon, and their purpose was to clear the way for one of the vehicles. The scene scared the troublemakers on the spot. The entrance of the highway was strangely quiet. They were secretly guessing who the big shot was to make such a big scene. When the traffic police saw that the troublemakers had quietened down, he said, "You're not making a scene now. You're scared. Let me tell you, the order we received is to block the highway for 300 miles. The police, including the traffic police and the special police, are mobilizing 3,000 people to clear the way." There was not a single person present who was not shocked. "Mr. Traffic Police, who is it?" The traffic police said, "Don't ask. I don't dare to say. Let's just watch. It won't take much of your time, at most a few hours." Behind this car, there were other cars 100 meters apart. Mr. Jiang did not see anyone in Hangzhou, but no one dared to neglect him. There were hundreds of cars sending him off, and all of them were the top big shots in Jiangnan. Seeing these super luxury cars that were rarely seen, the people at the entrance of the highway could not stay calm. Who was it that could make so many big shots send him off? Wan Shanghai from Wanxing Group. Extended Rolls-Royce. Bentley. CEO Wu of Pantheon? Heavens, there's even a car from the Zhongtian Group. If these cars appeared, these people would still be able to accept it. However, when they saw a car with a Jiangnan 00001 license plate number, they were completely shocked. Jiangnan Frontier Car. It was Zhang Xiu who pushed Gu Dexiao to the top of the Jiangnan frontier. Zhang Xiu could push him to the top and make him fall to the bottom. Naturally, he had to show enough respect. Even this Zhang Xiu was not qualified to say a word to Mr. Zhang. He only dared to drive him, let alone other people. At this time, even the traffic police was stunned. He knew that it was a big shot, but this was too big. Even the Feng Jiang of Jiangnan had to keep a distance of 100 meters to send him off. What kind of existence was this person? "Quick, get out of the way." Only then did the traffic police realize that there were many cars parked at the entrance of the highway. "Purge." The captain of the traffic police rushed over. He was so anxious that he broke out in cold sweat. "What are you doing? It's been so long and there are still so many cars. Quick." The traffic police was still a little confused. He couldn't help but ask, "Captain, who is it?" The captain said, "Who else in Jiangnan do you think can make the Feng Jiang send them off like this?" "You mean?" The traffic police's eyes suddenly widened. The faces of the car owners behind him all changed. One of them said timidly, Could it be Jiang?" He didn't dare to continue. "Get out of the way." Those people hurriedly ran to their cars. "Quick, get out of the way." They were so anxious that they shouted. If it was that person, they would have to give way. Not to mention not being able to get on the highway, even if they were delayed for a few hours, they wouldn't complain at all. He was the strongest person in China, the god who illuminated China, the pride of Jiangnan. Being forced to give way and voluntarily giving way were two completely different things. In an instant, all the cars backed out and quickly disappeared into the road. Those who were forced to give way were called forced, and those who were willing were called enlightened. The cars were majestic. Countless people watched from the outside, wanting to see Zhang Xiu's glory. Unfortunately, they sat in the cars and couldn't see. However, it didn't hinder their enthusiasm. After Zhongqing received the news, Zhang Yi suppressed it. He didn't make a big show of it, but it was already very shocking. Zhang Xiu's car arrived in Zhongqing. There were police cars everywhere. When he returned home, the street of the wetland villa was extended for a full 10 miles. They were all here to visit Mr. Zhang. Zhongqing's locals were led by the Tang family, and Wan Zuolin. Many people took pictures of this scene and posted it on the internet. Most people still didn't know what was going on. A full 10 miles of traffic, and all of them were luxury cars. The sight was really shocking. Maseratis, Rolls-Royces, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. Not only were there cars from Zhongqing, Hangzhou, and other places in Jiangnan. I really didn't expect Zhang Xiu's return to Zhongqing to be so extravagant. Of course, the Cheng family also received the news. Hanlin, don't the Cheng clan have to go? Sun Xiaohong asked with a complicated expression. Cheng Hanlin let out a long sigh. A wry smile appeared on his face as he said bitterly, "How can I still have the face? The Zhang clan has treated us well, but we may not be able to see you even if we go to their door." Sun Xiaohong said guiltily, "It's all my fault. It's all my fault for holding Su Su back. If she hadn't kept talking to Su Su and watched her and Zhang Xiu go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce, the two of them might not have divorced. The glory of the Zhang family today was also the glory of the Cheng family." Footsteps came from upstairs. A young girl came down. It was the youngest daughter, Cheng Lingsu. At this moment, there was no expression on her face, but the disappointment in her eyes couldn't be hidden. "Mom, I'm going out." "Su Su." Cheng Lingsu went out of the house and took out the key. It was still the same BMW, which had been driven for almost 3 years. She sat in the car, leaned on the steering wheel, and started to sob. She didn't know why she was crying. She just wanted to cry. She just felt wronged, very wronged. Especially after hearing her mother's words of self-blame upstairs, she felt even more wronged. But it was useless to cry. Nothing could change. The boy she looked down on had become a big shot. He was there, but he was unreachable and was getting farther and farther away from her. "Zhang Xiu, do you think I will lower my head and beg for mercy?" "No, it will never happen. Even if I, Cheng Lingsu, am poor to death, I will never beg for mercy." She drove to the riverside and got out of the car. Her family's group was in the central business district of the riverside. At the end of last year, after the ban was lifted, they sold it. Next to the savings, their assets tripled. But after that, the Cheng clan had a hard time getting the land. Cheng Hanlin shamelessly brought her family to the Zhang family to pay a New Year's visit. It was a joyous occasion. In the end, they were chased out by Lin Yueling in front of the guests. Last year, when the real estate industry was developing rapidly, other than developing an old piece of land that was already built and sold, the group had been empty for more than 5 months. This showed the Zhang family's attitude towards them. They didn't have any feelings for them anymore. Since then, the two families had parted ways. Cheng Lingsu held her phone and flipped it over in her hand. She tapped on Zhang Xiu's name several times, but in the end, she didn't have the courage to call. She looked back at the Cheng clan. Sister. Yes, if Zhang Xiu was still close to anyone in her family, it would only be her sister. She got up and walked towards the Cheng clan building. She didn't know why, but although the group was open every day and almost had nothing to do, Cheng Lingran always pretended to be very busy. She lived and ate in the company. Sister. Cheng Lingsu smiled charmingly and pushed open the door to her sister's office. It's you. Cheng Lingran looked up and her eyes were filled with joy. She beckoned for her sister to come over. My second miss, why are you so free today to see your sister who has no status? You're the second Mississippi, get rid of your second. Who told you to be so unlucky to have such a ranking? Anyway, I don't care. If you call me that again, I'll ignore you. Chung Ling-su sat on the sofa angrily and turned her head away. She didn't want to talk to Cheng Lingran. Okay, my good sister. You came to see me so kindly. How about this, I'll treat you to a meal. The smile on Cheng Ling-su's face gradually disappeared. The laughter just now was all faked, but she really couldn't pretend anymore. She didn't want to put up such an act in front of her sister. Zhang Xiu is back. Bang! Cheng Lingran knocked over the coffee on the table. It fell to the ground and smashed into pieces. Chapter 403. Seeing her sister lose her composure, Chang Ling-su said unhappily, "What are you doing? Are you so excited to hear him? Do you want to suck up to him again? Go to hell. Don't count me in." Cheng Lingran's expression was very flustered, and her eyes were instantly filled with tears. After more than a year of missing and waiting, he finally came back. But facing her sister, she felt like a thief. She hurriedly lowered her head and said coquettishly, "What do you mean by sucking up to him? Am I so unbearable?" That day, the Chung clan was about to go bankrupt, and then the ban was suddenly lifted. Chung Hanlin told her about the change. Cheng Lingran went in and made a phone call. It was obvious who the call was to. If she wasn't sucking up to him, what was she? Su turned her face away. Cheng Lingran said with a smile, "Don't be angry. Even if I'm sucking up to him, I'll bring you along. Do you want to ask him out for a meal?" Cheng Ling-su's eyes dimmed. "Why are you asking me? I've already broken off my relationship with him. If he knows I'm here, he may not come out." "How do you know if you don't ask?" Cheng Lingran was excited and nervous. She was eager to see Zhang Xiu. She had a lot of things to say to him. She immediately picked up the phone and called Zhang Xiu. Seeing her sister like this, Su felt very uncomfortable. It seemed that the whole world revolved around Zhang Xiu, and she was left out. Beep, beep, beep. The call went through, but no one answered it after a few rings. As the phone rang to the end, her excited heart sank little by little, and her joy gradually disappeared. "Did you answer my call? Are you still blaming me in your heart? Do you really want to draw a line with me?" Thinking of this, Cheng Lingran's face turned a little pale. Thinking of her yearning for him in the past year, she felt wronged. "How is it?" Cheng Lingran forced a smile and said, "He didn't answer. Maybe he's busy." "Busy?" Su snorted. "The road in the wetlands is full of cars for 10 kilometers. So many big shots from Jiangnan have come, even from the Jiangnan frontier, but he's nowhere to be seen. He's so arrogant that it scares people to death. He's so relaxed." Cheng Lingran's face became paler and paler. "He's no longer the Zhang Xiu who protected us all those years ago. He's now Zhang Luoxia, the most powerful man in Hua Nation, a man whose name shakes the world. How could he possibly remember me? And you?" Cheng Lingran pinched her phone and dialed his number again, but he didn't pick up. He hung up halfway. Cheng Lingran's face was drained of color as she sat there in a daze. "Sis, he's such a selfish person. Can't you see through him even now? He is arrogant and conceited when he is in the good times, but when he is down, he will wag his tail and beg for pity. He is not worthy of our kindness. Hey sister, where are you going?" Cheng Lingran suddenly stood up and walked outside. "I don't believe it. I'm going to find him." Su bit her red lips and stood up. She chased after her and said, "Are you really going? Do you want me to drive you there?" When Cheng Lingran arrived near the wetlands park and saw the stretch of luxury cars that stretched for miles, she finally had a true understanding of Zhang Xiu. This little boy who was closely related to her fate had become a towering tree that could cover the entire Jiangnan and even Hua Nation. The strong sense of distance made Cheng Lingran's footsteps less determined. She felt comfortable and inferior. This almost made her stop in her tracks, but she was unwilling to accept it. She told Zhang Xiu that she did not mean to hurt Zhang Xiu and should not have said those hurtful and heartless words. At the very least, She wanted to let Jiang Xiu know that she was not heartless. She walked forward through the crowd. Cheng Lingsu followed her all the way. Along the way, she saw all the important people who were difficult to meet. Now, in front of Jiang Xiu's house, they were like hawkers. They walked all the way to the front of the villa. "Excuse me, can you tell him that Cheng Lingran wants to see him?" The people at the door were the children of the Wang family. "Go back. Mr. Jiang is tired today. He won't see any guests." Cheng Lingran said, "Help me pass the message. Maybe Mr. Jiang will see me." The children of the Wang family did not know Cheng Lingran, but they recognized Cheng Lingsu. After all, Cheng Lingsu had lived in Hangzhou's Zhongyuan before. Of course, he had the opportunity to meet her. At that time, she was the mistress of the house. "Then, I'll go in and pass the message for you." Seeing that person go in, Cheng Lingsu said angrily, "Sister, look at him. How arrogant he is." She did not know what to feel. This used to be Cheng Lingsu's home. Inside, there was her bedroom and even the master room. But now, she could not even step through the door. The children of the Wang family were looking for Wang Xintong, of course. She was Mr. Jiang's spokesperson. At this moment, Wang Xintong was sitting in the courtyard of the villa, dressed in white. Sitting opposite her were all important people. There were only a few of them, and they were talking and laughing, but they were also quite formal. Wang Xintong responded with ease. Although she was young, she was not inferior to the people sitting in the Jiangnan frontier. "Master, there is someone outside named Cheng Lingran who wants to see Mr. Jiang." Wang Xintong could not help but look back at him. The disciple said, "Mr. Jiang's predecessor, Cheng Lingsu, came with her." What should I say? Wang Xintong's expression did not change. She smiled at the people opposite her. "Excuse me." She could directly send Cheng Lingsu away, but Wang Xintong did not dare to make this decision. She knew that Cheng Lingran was special to Jiang Xiu. She got up and walked to the room. When she came to the balcony, she saw Jiang Xiu alone. She walked over. "Is it annoying to see so many people?" Jiang Xiu did not speak. Cheng Lingsu thought for a moment and said, "Cheng Lingran is here." "Yes." He was holding the phone in his hand. There were 2 missed calls. He knew that Cheng Lingran would come. Moreover, with his current divine sense, nothing that happened in the vicinity could escape his senses. Naturally, he knew that Cheng Lingran was here. At this moment, his gaze was focused on her. He had not seen her for more than a year. She was more mature than before. She had a beautiful face, a tall figure, an outstanding temperament, and an unforgettable gentleness. "Do you want to see her?" Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with hesitation. He had always been very resolute. Cheng Lingran was an exception. No matter how strong a person was, they still needed a harbor in their heart. In the immortal martial continent, whenever he felt down and lonely, he would always think of Cheng Lingran to comfort his soul. It could be said that he had a kind of spiritual dependence on Cheng Lingran. However, spiritual cultivation was calm and sober. "I don't want to see her." His gaze became cold and emotionless. Wang Xintong's limpid eyes flickered. She was very surprised, but gradually, her eyes dimmed. Looking at Jiang Xiu's back, the pity in her eyes grew stronger. "Why torture yourself? You clearly want to see her." Jiang Xiu coldly said, "Take care of yourself. Do you really want to die?" "Okay, I'll make her leave." Wang Xintong turned and left. However, she intentionally slowed down her pace, giving Jiang Xiu enough time to reconsider. However, she underestimated Jiang Xiu's decisiveness. He didn't change his mind. He stood on the balcony 100 meters away, looking at Cheng Lingran. Because Jiang Xiu knew that Cheng Lingran wouldn't fall in love with him. If she could, she would have loved him in her previous life. This time, she would have had the chance to fall in love with him again. Then, her attitude wouldn't have changed. This wasn't something that he, Jiang Luoxia, could change with his cultivation and influence. To use a phrase that was very common, but it was very appropriate. The person who got her couldn't get her heart. One person's pain was better than two people's pain. The disciple of the Wang family walked out. Cheng Lingran had been waiting outside for a long time. She was thinking about what to say because her sister was beside her. However, she was eager to see Zhang Xiu. She hoped that Zhang Xiu could understand. "I'm sorry, Miss Cheng. Mr. Zhang is very tired today. He won't see anyone. Why don't you make an appointment another day?" Cheng Lingran's face suddenly turned pale. She widened her eyes in disbelief. However, gradually, confusion, anger, and grievance turned into disappointment. "Is that so? Then, I'll come again next time." Cheng Lingsu was also quite surprised. "It's fine that he won't see me, but why won't he see you? You didn't offend him. Did he forget how you took care of him when we were young?" "He forgot. Sister, wait for me." The more she called, the faster Cheng Lingran ran. Chapter 404. The two pearls of the Cheng family were leaning against a rock on the beach. Their eyes were fixed on the surface of the river in front of them at the same time. The waves of the river were crashing against the beach. Compared to the beautiful scenery of the river, the two beauties were even more eye-catching. One was gentle and demure, while the other was fresh and clean. They were like fairies in a painting, untainted by even a speck of dust. The scenery around them paled in comparison. Cheng Lingsu took off her shoes and gently picked up the sand with her delicate feet. "I know that Zhang Xiu hates me in his heart. He hated me since high school. He hates me for looking down on him and hurting his self-esteem. Sister, I've implicated you." Cheng Lingran couldn't hear these at all. "But he shouldn't hate you too. You're so good to him. I always thought that you treated him better than me. Anyway, when we were young, you helped him and not me. But now, he treats you like this." Seeing that her sister didn't speak, Su had to say, "Or, I'll find another chance to talk to him. After all, you grew up with him. How can he treat you like this? How can he be so arrogant?" Cheng Lingran's eyes were full of sadness. "I have nothing to say to him. Are you angry with him?" Cheng Lingran shook her head. "I want to forget this person. Only by forgetting him can I be free. I understand now that this is what I want to do. Now, I don't want to think about anything. I just want to run the Cheng clan seriously. I can do what others can do, and I want to do it better than them." Su nodded hard. Yes, there are many strong women in this era. However, they soon found out that in Jiangnan, no one could get rid of his influence. Now, the Cheng clan couldn't even get a piece of land. How could they run the clan? Cheng Lingran said, "I've thought about it. I want to move the Cheng clan overseas." She had been waiting for more than a year, waiting for Zhang Xiu to come back and change everything. However, she did not expect that after more than a year of waiting, all she got was a closed door. She was in despair. She also knew that if the Cheng clan stayed in Jiangnan or even Hua Nation, there would be no future for them. Overseas? Su was taken aback. It's very chaotic overseas right now. The economy is very unstable, and there are reports of murders everywhere. Right now, the whole world wants to come to China, and yet you want to leave. Besides, it's impossible for you to enter the real estate industry overseas. In Su's opinion, the Cheng family had enough money. Even if they did not do anything, they would have enough money to spend for the rest of their lives. I am talking about Hong Kong. Hong Kong was also taken care of by China, and the situation was similar to China. But Hong Kong's real estate market was more than 10 times more developed than China. But Hong Kong's real estate market was worth tens of billions, and it was hard for Hong Kong to invest in the real estate market there. Now, Cheng Lingran did not care so much. She just wanted to get as far away from Zhang Xiu as possible. She wanted to leave this place without him. At this moment, Cheng Lingran's phone rang. She quickly picked it up, hoping that it was Zhang Xiu. But it was an unfamiliar number. Actually, it was not unfamiliar, because she had called him once more than a year ago. "He's back," Cheng Lingran said. "It's you again." "Yes, it's me. Don't forget about me. Your photos are still in my hands, and I don't need you to do anything." Before Nangong could finish her words, she was interrupted by Cheng Lingran. "Don't waste your time. He doesn't even want to see me. Stop scheming and go deal with other people." "No way, he has no reason not to see you." Cheng Lingran tried hard to control her voice, but it was obvious that she was very emotional and disappointed at this moment. Nangong was a little confused. She could never forget Zhang Xiu's sad eyes when he pressed his hand on her car window that night. "It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Don't worry, I'll find out more for you." Nangong hung up the phone. Cheng Lingran felt strange. "Are you blackmailing me?" But somehow, Cheng Lingran still had hope in her heart. She really hoped that things would change under her manipulation. "Who is it?" Cheng Lingran said, "A business partner. He wants to ask you for help with minor repairs." Su Su shook her head helplessly. She kicked the sand hard. She had the most powerful nuclear weapon in her hands, and she had a firm grasp on Zhang Xiu's weakness. That was Lin Yueling. Su Su couldn't forget the chilliness that she felt when she looked at Lin Yueling in the police station. Every time she thought about it, her hair would stand on end. "Why don't I talk to Auntie and ask her to let Zhang Xiu meet you? That way, he won't feel too aggrieved." Cheng Lingran didn't say anything. Around dusk, the Wang family hosted a banquet for guests from all over the country. Of course, Zhang Xiu didn't attend. He wasn't in the mood to deal with these people. The guests didn't leave until the evening. Zhang Xiu received a guest from the capital. It was Gu Daji, the former commander of the Zhongnan frontier. Wang Xintong accompanied him. He brought the news about the spiritual stone of the state from Dao Yutai. In addition, he also wanted to meet Zhang Xiu. It had been more than 3 years since they parted in Harbin. Gu Daji was old. His hair was white, but he was still energetic. He said, "The atmosphere in Dao Yutai is very tense now. No one dares to tell anyone about this." Wang Xintong poured a cup of tea for Gu Daji. "Is it because of the change of leadership?" Gu Daji nodded with a serious expression. "Yes, at such a sensitive time, no one dares to think about such a big thing." Even though he knew there was no one around, he still lowered his voice and said, "If the big boss wants to run again, there won't be many people supporting him. This is the usual practice. In the past, there wouldn't be a chance, but now the world has changed." Wang Xintong said, "The change of leadership at this time is indeed quite big." Gu Daji really wanted to say something to Zhang Xiu, but Zhang Xiu didn't care about these things at all. He only cared about when Dao Yutai would give him the spiritual stone of the state. He couldn't wait for the last piece of the longevity rune stone. What he hoped for the most now was to get the last piece of the longevity rune stone. There would be a complete world inside it for Zhang Xiu to comprehend the laws of the world. From there, he could smoothly condense a complete godhood, transcend the Yang spirit, become an earth spirit, and return to the immortal martial continent. The big boss hopes to get Mr. Zhang's support. If he is re-elected, then he will do his best to fulfill Mr. Zhang's wish. Give him the spiritual stone of the state. Zhang Xiu said, "I don't need to wait too long." When Gu Daji heard the affirmative answer, he was finally relieved. He was afraid that Zhang Xiu would refuse. After all, after the big boss was in Harbin, he didn't support the Zhang family enough. Zhang Xiu might find a new partner. After the meeting, Zhang Xiu asked, "How long will it take?" "Early autumn." It was only May, not June. There was still more than 3 months before autumn. Zhang Xiu suddenly frowned and said, "No, it's too slow. I don't want to wait." "This," Gu Daji said awkwardly, "it must be after the election. At this time, no one can make this decision." Wang Xintong's heart tightened. She felt that Zhang Xiu was very eager to leave and embark on the journey that he said would take hundreds of years. Of course, she didn't want Zhang Xiu to leave. 3 months will pass quickly. If you don't want to stay in Jiang City, I'll accompany you to walk around. Some things can't be rushed. Zhang Xiu pondered. If he insisted on getting the spiritual stone of the state, he would have to use force and directly kill his way into the fishing platform. However, if he did that, he would definitely fall out with the authorities. How would his parents live? Add one more condition. Ensure my parents' safety and prosperity. Gu Daji said, even if Mr. Jiang doesn't say this, the big boss will do his best. He won't let what happened in Harbin happen again. Of course, these words don't work. How about Mr. Jiang make a phone call to the big boss? No, I'll go to the imperial capital. After thinking about it, Zhang Xiu had to think about what would happen after he left. The Wang family couldn't protect his parents, and neither could Skyline Biology. If anyone could protect them, it would be the big boss. If even the big boss couldn't, then no one in Hua Nation could. With the big boss's means and his re-election, even if he retired in the future, his family would be able to protect his parents' safety and wealth in Jiang City. This was an important additional condition that had to be added. He had to personally go to the imperial capital and finalize this matter with the big boss. Chapter 405. That night, Zhang Xiu stood alone under the starry sky. He was now a higher god, and within his divine yuan, there was a faint trace of a godhead forming. The first sound of heaven and earth caused a new sun to rise in the sky, forming the framework of a world. This was clearly a sign that he had touched upon the threshold of the world's laws. And the formation of a godhead should be related to touching upon the threshold of the world's laws. He felt that he was already on his way, stepping onto the path of breaking away from the sun-god realm. As long as the world's laws were perfected, his godhead would be perfected, and he would break through the sun-god realm and become an earth god. Then, he would leave Earth and return to the immortal martial continent. Zhang Xiu's gaze landed on a distant villa, and his lips couldn't help but curl up in a smile. He had lived here for quite some time, but the people in that villa hadn't returned. Today, it was rare that the lights were turned on, and there were shadows moving about inside. It seemed that they had come back to stay for a while, but what a coincidence. He transformed into a cloud of smoke, and in the next moment, he was already at the villa's entrance. He pressed the doorbell, thinking about Yi Bing's mother's vigilant and angry expression. He didn't know if Yi Bing and him had grown up after so many years. Would she still bear a grudge over what happened back then? But speaking of which, he was really wronged. There was nothing between him and Yi Bing. It was just that he had inexplicably returned to his youth, and was even separated from Yi Bing. Speaking of which, it was really strange. How could such a thing happen? Zhang Xiu couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. What made him even more puzzled was that he was able to contact the immortal martial continent. It wasn't a time reversal or transmigration. Who is it? The door was opened, and a beautiful woman opened it. He hadn't seen her for many years, and the auntie in front of him had also aged a little. However, she had taken good care of herself, and didn't seem to have changed much. Auntie. Zhang Xiu revealed a smile. You are... Oh. The beautiful woman was stunned for a moment, but she quickly recalled that this boy had left a deep impression on her. In her heart, she had always thought that he was her daughter's first love, so of course she had a deep impression of him. You're here to look for Bing Bing? Zhang Xiu said, Auntie, is it convenient? In the blink of an eye, 4 years had passed, and the little boy from back then had grown up. She couldn't treat Bing Bing's classmates like a child anymore. She nodded and said, Come in. Her smile, and it was a little forced. Bing Bing, your old classmate is looking for you. Who is it? The sound of footsteps came from upstairs. A young girl wearing casual home clothes walked down with a seductive posture. When she saw Zhang Xiu, she was obviously stunned. Why are you here? Immediately after, her pretty face became a bit hot. A boy had come to pay her a visit, which made her feel quite embarrassed. Aren't you busy? In Hangzhou, Yi Bing had seen the power of his classmate who had made him fall in love. Today, she also knew that Zhang Xiu had come back. The entire road in the wetland was full of customers looking for him. She thought that Zhang Xiu would be very busy. She didn't expect that he would come to find her. "It's okay. I saw that your lights were on, so I came over to take a look." Yi Bing nodded. The two of them had not seen each other for a long time and felt a little distant. Or perhaps it was because of the presence of Yi Bing's mother, which made them feel unnatural. For a moment, there was no topic to talk about, and there was an awkward silence. "How have you been recently?" Yi Bing said, "I just came back from abroad. It's a little chaotic there. My mother didn't live well there, so I thought that after coming back for a while, I might consider coming back to study here." "What about you?" Zhang Xiu said, "I dropped out of school." Yi Bing saw that Zhang Xiu had been standing. If she let him sit down, her mother would be in the living room, and they wouldn't be able to chat. However, if she let him into her room, it would be even more inappropriate. How could she bring a boy into her room? Although it wasn't as if Zhang Xiu hadn't been here before, Mother Yi was not enlightened and refused to leave. Awkward, really awkward. However, the Yi Bing now was also the Yi Bing who had grown up. She was no longer the Yi Bing who would write a letter of guarantee for the slightest mistake. She said, "Mom, go into the room and watch. I'll change the channel." Mother Yi helplessly rolled her eyes at her daughter and had to go upstairs. Before she left, she gave Zhang Xiu a meaningful look. "Sit." After his mother went upstairs, Zhang Xiu was finally able to sit down. Everything in the living room hadn't changed. The arrangement of the things hadn't changed. The dining table with the letter of guarantee was still there. Time seemed to have returned to many years ago. Zhang Xiu looked left and right. Yi Bing was also a little unnatural. When the two of them looked at each other, the feeling at that moment was like the rainstorm after the college entrance exam. The two of them were in the phone booth. "Why are you looking for me?" Zhang Xiu shook his head. This guy's reaction would definitely cause another awkward silence. However, he continued, "Is your room still the same?" This guy was definitely doing it on purpose. Yi Bing was so angry that her mouth puffed up. "You're so annoying. Zhang Xiu, you're still as annoying as before. I haven't settled the score with you for that matter. I suffered a great loss." After saying that, Yi Bing felt that she spoke a little too casually. Their relationship shouldn't be so casual. She felt a little shy again. "I didn't do anything," Zhang Xiu said with a look of regret. "I was just a coward back then. If it were now." "How about now?" Yi Bing glared at him fiercely, forcing Zhang Xiu to swallow his words. However, how could Yi Bing not know what this brat was going to say next? If it were another guy who said such hooligan words to her, she would have already left in a huff or even slapped him. However, when Zhang Xiu said it, she wasn't angry at all. "I've already suffered enough losses," Zhang Xiu said. "I've also suffered losses. Why don't we make it up to each other so that neither of us will suffer losses?" Yi Bing mouthed to him, "F***CKU. "Don't say that," Yi Bing said. "Now you're here to talk nonsense. Why didn't you do it earlier? It's not like I didn't give you a chance. Didn't you look down on me and marry the campus belle Cheng Lingsu?" Boring. Yi Bing knew that he was Zhang Luoxia. Naturally, she knew that he was divorced. Now that he said that, it was like touching a sore spot and deliberately taunting him. Moreover, when Zhang Xiu rejected Yi Bing, it wasn't because of Cheng Lingsu. It was because of Cheng Lingran. "I heard that you're divorced?" When she asked this, Yi Bing's expression became serious. Zhang Xiu nodded. Everyone in Zhongnan's upper class knew about it. There was nothing to hide. Moreover, he didn't think that this was a stain in his life. However, in front of this girl, he still had to act sad. "Yes." "Why? Isn't she very beautiful?" "Shallow." Zhang Xiu despised her in his heart. However, it wasn't that the girl was shallow. It was the girl who thought that you were shallow. Spiritual cultivation, please wake up. Personality differences? Yi Bing suddenly laughed out loud. Zhang Xiu was confused. She pointed at Zhang Xiu and said, "You're a divorced man. You definitely won't be able to find a wife in the future." Zhang Xiu's heart was inexplicably sour. "You're discriminating against me." "Sorry, I accidentally said the truth." Even though she apologized, her eyes were filled with schadenfreude. Zhang Xiu said, "Yi Bing, if I really can't find a wife in the future, I'll settle the score with you." "Why would you look for me? You're a divorced man and you want to find a pure girl like me? Let me tell you, it's impossible. This shop of mine will be closed forever. Who asked you to not know what's good for you back then? Sour, so sour. You're the sour one." Unknowingly, Zhang Xiu, this beast, was already beside Yi Bing. The fragrance of a young girl drifted over. Her natural body fragrance was refreshing and intoxicating. Yi Bing could feel Zhang Xiu approaching her and could not help but feel nervous. Her heart was pounding like a little deer. She looked at her mother's room worriedly and said weakly, "What are you doing?" She had reason to suspect that this divorced man was here to rekindle their relationship. "Back then, you kissed me in the phone booth." "I'm a petty person and I still remember it. I'll kiss you back." Zhang Xiu was really shameless. Yi Bing scolded softly, "Scoundrel." A pair of hands gently blocked Zhang Xiu, not allowing him to get too close. However, she did not push Zhang Xiu away directly. It was as though she was trying to resist him. Cough, cough, cough. Just as she was about to succeed, a cough came from upstairs. The two separated in a flash. Yi Bing's face was red as she stood up and said, "It's late. You should go back." Zhang Xiu was dumbfounded. "I've only just started." "Go back first. I'm going to sleep." As she spoke, she reached out to push Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu had no choice but to go back. Yi Bing kept pushing him out of the room, but she also stepped out. Mother Yi definitely could not see this position. What a smart girl. "Zhang Xiu, let me tell you. It's not that easy. There are many people chasing me. You'll have to wait in the back." Yi Bing announced loudly. "I still have to get that ticket." "Of course." Yi Bing's lips curled into a smile. "However, since you're a regular customer, I can cut the queue. You're the first backup candidate. It's just a word. In other words, you're the eternal backup." "I'm too pitiful." A voice came from upstairs. "Bing Bing." Yi Bing responded and gestured to Zhang Xiu to pack up. Then, she turned back. However, the moment Yi Bing turned around, the light in the room and the moonlight outside cast a shadow on her body. Zhang Xiu's eyes suddenly widened, his face full of astonishment. Chapter 406. There was only one possibility for this to happen, and that was that the Moonlight-Een attribute had reacted to her body. Usually, there was only one possibility, and that was that this person was the incarnation of a demon god. Zhang Xiu was in disbelief. The image of the snake demon god he saw in Hangzhou flashed across his mind, and his heart sank. It can't be, right? He was now a superior god, and he already had enough power to use his eye technique to spy on the snake demon god's true form. But at this moment, Zhang Xiu really hoped that he had seen wrongly. His gaze swept across the room, carrying a fierce glint. At the same time, Yi Bing closed the door. Even though their line of sight had been blocked, Zhang Xiu could still see everything through his eye technique. Her eyes were filled with shyness. He dared not believe that such a pure and beautiful Yi Bing could be a demon immortal, but the snake-shaped shadow behind Yi Bing made Zhang Xiu believe it. Yi Bing was a snake demon god. At this moment, Zhang Xiu's heart was filled with disappointment. He felt that he had lost a close friend, a friend that he had a good impression of, a friend that made Zhang Xiu feel possessive. But now, it was all gone. What followed was countless greetings. From his conversation with Yi Bing just now, Zhang Xiu was sure that she knew about their past, including what happened in the room when he first arrived. At that time, She already existed before the world changed. Suddenly, a terrifying thought appeared in Zhang Xiu's mind. How did he return to his youth? Could it have something to do with Yi Bing? He couldn't remember what he did or what happened before he returned to his youth. He felt that there was a part of his memory that was missing. Yi Bing. Did my coming here have something to do with you? Suddenly, something attacked him. Zhang Xiu stepped to the side, and an apple core fell to the ground. He looked up and saw that it was Yi Bing's balcony. Yi Bing looked at him with a smile. Still reluctant to leave? Zhang Xiu said, "The night is long. It's hard to sleep alone." "I can't sleep." Yi Bing pursed her lips, tilted her head, and looked at Zhang Xiu teasingly. "If you can't fall asleep, so be it. I heard that divorced men are very passionate on the inside. I didn't believe it before, but now, I do." Zhang Xiu said helplessly, "Seriously, what do you think of me?" "Nothing much. Although you didn't make any big mistakes, your face is repulsive. When I see you, I get angry. When I get angry, it's easy for me to want to hit someone. In short, you deserve a beating." "Are you crazy? You have drugs." Zhang Xiu was not convinced. "The medicine is in my house. Do you want to come with me to get it?" "Poison." Yi Bing glared at Zhang Xiu with her beautiful eyes and said, "Do you think I'm stupid? If I go to your house in the middle of the night, how can I come out in one piece?" Zhang Xiu said, "Why are your thoughts so dirty?" "I'm dirty." Yi Bing was so angry that her nose was almost crooked. Okay, I'm dirty. You're pure. No matter how pure you are, I won't go to your house. Let's go." "Don't go." Yi Bing said, "Why not? I'm such a dirty person. I don't want to tarnish your pure heart." "Well, I've long wanted to take off the hat of purity." Pfft. Yi Bing couldn't help but laugh. "Zhang Xiu, can you be a little shameless? I didn't bring it out today." He, I can see." Zhang Xiu was still in disbelief when he returned home. Yi Bing was actually a demon god. However, she had originally agreed to go to the imperial capital to study at university, but she had suddenly gone overseas. Without the suppression of the Guardian Spirit Stone overseas, the integration with the alternate world was faster, and the evolution was faster. The spiritual energy was also more abundant. When she appeared in Hongzhou, the snake demon god also appeared in Hongzhou. Now, the foreign world was in chaos. Those who could afford it had returned, but she still hadn't come back. Looking at it all, it wasn't a coincidence that Yi Bing was the white demon god. But now, what Zhang Xiu couldn't figure out was whether Yi Bing had anything to do with him going back to his youth. Did she have anything to do with him in the immortal martial continent? Did she have anything to do with the part of his memory that he had lost? The next day, the flight to the capital had been arranged, and the big boss stopped all work to wait for Zhang Xiu. He couldn't stand the big boss up just because he wanted to flirt. Lin Yueling packed Zhang Xiu's clothes for the trip. Minor repairs. When you go to the capital this time, you must try your best to find out about Yuchen's little Luo. That girl, ever since we lost contact, she seemed to have disappeared. In the blink of an eye, it's been almost 3 years. Zhang Xiu had ordered people to look for her more than a year ago, but there was still no news. When it came to Mr. Zhang's matters, those people didn't dare to be negligent. If they couldn't find her, either something had happened to Zui Yuchen, or Zui Yuchen had gone abroad. Zhang Xiu was more inclined to the latter. She had given Zui Yuchen a book on the basics of cultivation. The spiritual energy abroad was more abundant than in the country, and from the perspective of cultivation, it was obviously much better abroad. Lin Yueling reminded her, "Don't just go back to the past. It doesn't make sense for such a big person to disappear just like that. You had 2 daughters-in-law, but now you have no one. You even need your mother to pack your things for you. Aren't you ashamed? Hurry up and find her. If you can't find her, then it's your fault. Empress Dowager, you can't use your incompetence this time. Did you hear that?" Lin Yueling had been through ups and downs with Zhang Xiu all these years. Moreover, as she grew older, she longed for a stable life. She had seen through all these things. What she yearned for the most now was for Zhang Xiu to have a wife. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that she wanted to have grandchildren. Many of her classmates and friends already had grandchildren. Lin Yueling wanted to say something, but the words didn't come out of her mouth. Zhang Yi was still waiting for them at the door. His son rarely came back, and he was going out. No matter how busy he was, he had to send him off. Zhang Xiu left the villa in the car. He glanced at Yi Bing's house. The little girl was standing on the balcony, reading a book. Hearing the sound of the car wheels, she looked up. It was a sunny day. Her white clothes were dotted with orchids, and her long skirt was slightly white. She had the strong aura of an artistic young woman. Yi Bing's upbringing made her have a kind of intellectual beauty. She leaned against the railing of her balcony and smiled sweetly. She waved the book in her hand slightly at Zhang Xiu as a farewell. Zhang Xiu smiled faintly at her. It wasn't appropriate for him to make any big movements. His mother was sitting beside him. If she knew that he was flirting with such a beautiful female classmate, it would definitely ruin things. He believed that with the demon god's eyesight, she could definitely hear his expression clearly. Demon god. In the immortal martial continent, gods placed great importance on bloodlines. Demon gods, on the other hand, didn't care about bloodlines at all. They would give birth to whoever they captured. Immortals, gods, humans, devils, spirits, demons. Moreover, their fertility was especially strong. Sometimes, there would be one or two freakishly abnormal characters. Among Zhang Xiu's good friends in the immortal martial continent, there were a few such characters. However, Zhang Xiu still had some reservations about such things because he came from Earth. But now, he didn't feel anything. After all, he had already transformed into a human. Didn't humans start from a fertilized egg? In reality, demon gods were more attractive to humans than women of the same race. For example, a vixen. Although one knew that she was a demon, seeing her beautiful face and the taboo, it was even more mesmerizing. He received a message from Yi Bing. I've decided. I'm transferring back to the country. Zhang Xiu's heart stirred. I was worried that you would go overseas. If that's the case, I won't be able to flirt with you or investigate you. He replied. Where do you plan to transfer back? Yi Bing. I haven't decided yet. Do you have any suggestions? Some schools had strong legacies that could not be changed, just like Imperial Capital University. After the world changed, China University was still ranked in the top 2 in the country. The martial arts department developed very quickly. It was mainly because of the school's appeal. They could invite famous martial arts experts and also attract a strong source of students. However, Zhang Xiu lived in Jiangnan. If Yi Bing went to the capital, it would be inconvenient for him. He replied, Jiangnan is big. I remember that you have classmates in Jiangnan University. Yi Bing has a good friend who's studying there. It should be attractive to Yi Bing. She replied, Jiangnan is big. I think it's good too. But I don't have any problems there. Zhang Xiu. This is a small matter. I'll arrange it. Yi Bing. I think so too. It would be a sin to not make use of such a powerful Mr. Jiang. Chapter 407. When Zhang Xiu arrived at the capital, the big boss car had been waiting for him for a long time. The car wasn't going to Diaoyutai. This was a private meeting arranged in a very private place. At the banquet, the conversation went smoothly. In order to get Zhang Xiu's support, the big boss unconditionally agreed to all of Zhang Xiu's conditions. In fact, Zhang Xiu didn't ask for benefits. The core content was to ensure the safety and prosperity of his parents in the future. These conditions couldn't be considered conditions, so of course, there was no reason to refuse. The big boss agreed. After being re-elected, the first thing he did was to give the spirit stone to Zhang Xiu. After the matter was settled, the two had lunch together. The big boss couldn't come out for too long, so they chatted for a while and left in less than 3 hours. After that, Zhang Xiu planned to go to Zhua Xiaoqin's entertainment company to take a look at his mother's request. Zhua Xiaoqin was missing, but at least her partner and the big star Xiao Xuetong were still there. Maybe he could ask for some information. Just as he was about to go, Zhang Xiu received a call that he hadn't received in a long time. Seeing this call, Zhang Xiu was a bit dazed. It had been more than 3 years. It wasn't a long time, but it definitely wasn't short either. He picked up the phone. "Hello." A pleasant female voice came from the other side. "Do you still remember who I am?" Zhang Xiu was amused. "I forgot." The girl on the other side was quite angry. She shouted, "It's best that you forgot. I was worried that you would think about me every day and lose your appetite. You would lose weight every day and be unable to extricate yourself." Zhang Xiu said, "Your voice is a bit familiar. Who are you?" The young girl gritted her teeth hatefully, and the sound of her teeth chattering could be heard clearly by Zhang Xiu's ears. Zhang Xiu's wicked sense of humor had gotten its way as he said, "Oh, I remember now. You're Cui Hua." "Cui Hua." The girl said, "I'm also Cui Hua." "Then who are you?" The girl said, "Zhang Luoxia, you're really something. Now that you're so awesome, you don't recognize me anymore, right? Fine, I'll take it that I called the wrong number. Let's not meet again in the future." "Oh wait, I remember who you are." The girl didn't hang up. "Who is it?" "Zhang Xiu. Nangong something. Miss Nangong, you're Miss Nangong, right?" "Die." Zhang Xiu laughed proudly. "I've called you so many times in a year. Why didn't you answer? Why did you call me now?" Zhang Xiu was quite confused. His meeting with the big boss was a very confidential matter, and it shouldn't have been known to outsiders. Nangong shouldn't have known that he was in the imperial capital. This girl had once cried her heart out because he had carried a nuclear bomb into the sky. Even if it was a relationship, it was a relationship of affection and righteousness. Is there such a thing? Ha ha, ha ha ha. What a guilty but pleasant voice. Zhang Xiu couldn't figure it out. Did she stop talking to him because she knew that he was Zhang Luoxia? But what about crying under a nuclear bomb? Or did she feel that his real identity was a burden to her? Zhang Xiu said, "Come out and meet me?" The girl pondered for a moment. "You're not in Zhongnan. You can't have flown here, right?" "I'm in the imperial capital." The girl said, "You're in the imperial capital. Then, okay," Zhang Xiu said, "let's meet at the old place." After a while, the girl on the other end of the phone replied, "Let's not go to the old place. Let's find a place to eat and reminisce about the past." "There's a place to eat at the old place." Zhang Xiu still didn't want to give up. "I'll choose a place." Nangong chose a wooden house in the outskirts of the imperial capital. The reason why she chose that place was because she didn't have to worry about bumping into acquaintances. It was a small mountain that was more than 300 meters above sea level. The scenery was beautiful, and there were springs and lakes everywhere. It was also spring, and there were green plants everywhere. It was very pleasing to the eye. From afar, he could see Nangong standing in front of the wooden house. The warm sunlight outlined her tall and slender body, making her look like a radiant goddess. She was much more mature than before. The young girl was like a blooming flower. She had a feminine charm that she didn't have before. Coupled with the fact that she had dressed up meticulously, she was very eye-catching. They were friends who knew each other well, and they were lovers who hadn't seen each other for a long time. In this deserted place, she didn't rush over excitedly and throw herself into Zhang Xiu's arms. She just looked at him with a sweet smile. Zhang Xiu even deified Nangong to match the occasion. He knew that Nangong was a visual creature. The wooden house was well equipped, and Nangong had arrived earlier than him. She had already prepared a sumptuous meal. "It's quite well prepared. It's just that there's a lot of food. You can't eat until you're full. If you eat until you're full, your thoughts will run wild. He was implying that one would become lustful after eating enough. Nangong Ko spat on the ground. You're still acting like a hooligan. You're an overlord, but what's in your head all day? Zhang Xiu and Nangong Ko never had a heart-to-heart talk. In the past, they rarely met, and they were always racing against time. Zhang Xiu wasn't used to sitting down and chatting with Nangong Ko like this. He also didn't want to talk about other things with Nangong Ko. After all, this was their relationship, and it was already engraved on their foreheads whether they were animals or not. How can this be considered as a hooligan? This is the wisdom that your life coach taught you. Nangong Ko was really speechless. Why did you call me? Zhang Xiu was stunned. Weren't you the one who called me first? Oh, it's all your fault. You made me confused. Nangong Ko thought for a moment and said, What do you mean? Don't you know that the Snail Emperor belongs to my family? In Jiangnan, it's been suppressed by all kinds of forces, and it can't do anything. Zhang Xiu said, I don't take care of things. Nangong Ko saw that Zhang Xiu was approaching her, so she pushed him symbolically. You can't be like this. You throw everything to others, and you don't take care of things yourself. You don't have any work spirit. Zhang Xiu said, I'm a man of action. Nangong Ko's pretty face became a bit hot, and her eyes became a bit flirtatious. Behave yourself. I'm telling you, I'm about to get engaged, and I can't be like before. Engaged? Who are you going to marry? Nangong Ko stopped him symbolically, and she slowly fell into his trap. She said, It's a biological society in Japan. My family wants to cooperate with them to develop a project, but it's a business and political marriage. It's the Zhuzhou family. Don't do this, you scoundrel, you liar, you haven't even eaten yet. After a long time, the two of them woke up in the afternoon. The two of them appeared beside the swimming pool, and Nangong Ko swam back and forth in the water like a fish. Zhang Xiu said, Is Japan's biological technology very good? Nangong Ko's sexy body turned around in the water, and she swam towards Zhang Xiu. She said casually, It's said that Japan is like Penglai in the past, and it's a magical island. After the world changed, Japan's martial arts development was the fastest. If it weren't for the fact that you were too outstanding, East Asia would have been Japan. Japan's technology is 1 or 2 years more advanced than ours, and it's even more advanced than America's. The Zhuzhou family is very powerful in Japan, and it's a newly risen family. However, in Japan's history, the Zheng family was very glorious. Out of the country of gentlemen in the east, they soared beyond the 4 seas, past the Kunlun mountains, and lived in the wind caves at dusk, and the world was at peace. Someone in the Zhuzhou family has awakened the divine phoenix pattern. Zhang Xiu said, Oh, that's quite surprising. 9th on the divine list, the man from the Zhuzhou family. Zhang Xiu didn't say anything, and Nangong Ko said, Although his ranking isn't as high as yours, you still might not be able to defeat him. Back then, you killed the 7 gods in a row, and your name shook the world. The divine list changes too quickly, so don't look down on others. You're still protecting me? It seems that I didn't teach you a lesson just now. Nangong Ko blushed. Anyway, I can't come out casually in the future, and I have to be careful. While they were talking, the sound of a car rolling over stones came from the entrance of the wooden house. Nangong Ko thought to herself, Why is someone here? She couldn't help but turn her head to look. The swimming pool was very high, and she could see the entrance. Suddenly, her expression changed, and she said nervously, Why is he here? Is he following me? What's wrong? Nangong Ko knew that she was in trouble, and she hurriedly said, Quickly, quickly hide. He's here. Who? Who else could it be? It's my fiancé. He must be following me. Stop talking, quickly find a place to hide. If you're caught by him, you'll be in trouble. Chapter 408. Zhang Xiu looked around. Hide. Where could he hide? This person was already outside the wooden house. Could it be that he could hide under the bed? But there's no bed here. Seeing Zhang Xiu's dumbfounded expression, Nan Gongkou couldn't help but laugh. She jumped out of the water like a mermaid, and water droplets dripped from her smooth swimsuit and skin. You're so stupid. Are you the fake Zhang Luoxia? Hurry up and change your clothes. We'll go to the golf course, and you'll be my caddy. The back door of the wooden house was a golf course, which was close to nature and environmentally friendly. Zhang Xiu asked, "Do you think it's appropriate for me to be a caddy?" Nan Gongkou smiled and said, "It's okay to be yourself." After Nan Gongkou finished playing a few rounds of golf, a group of men in suits came over. The leader of the group was a young man in his 20s. He was obviously a Re-Nation man. He had a high forehead, a straight nose, and a pair of sharp eyes. His lips were pursed tightly, and the corners of his mouth were slightly lowered. "Mr. Zhujiu, why are you here?" Nan Gongkou was wearing a golf cap, a white shirt, and casual sweatpants. She was playing golf under the sun, and she looked very beautiful. The young man didn't pay attention to Nan Gongkou. Instead, he fixed his eyes on Zhang Xiu. His eyes were almost spitting fire, but he restrained himself. "I heard that you came here to play, so I came here to have a look." "Who is this?" "Oh, this is my business partner, Mr. Zhang Xiu from Zhongnan." "Mr. Zhang, this is Zhujiu Ichiro from Zhujiu Biological Group. He's the eldest son of Mr. Zhujiu, and the person in charge of Zhujiu Biological Group in China." Nan Gongkou introduced him. Zhang Xiu glanced at him indifferently. The so-called Mr. Zhujiu was the man from Zhujiu Nunnery who was ranked 9th on the god list and had the divine phoenix mark. The man in front of him was merely the eldest son of Zhujiu Nunnery. This Zhujiu Ichiro was very gloomy at this moment. He couldn't catch the adulterer in bed. Although it was an alliance of interests and they weren't even engaged yet, this matter concerned the face of his Zhujiu family. He couldn't ignore it. With the Zhujiu family's power, cooperating with the Nangong family would lower their status. If it weren't for the fact that they coveted the Nangong family's political connections, they wouldn't have allowed him to marry the young girl in front of him. However, Nan Gongkou's appearance was indeed outstanding, so he didn't object. However, when he heard that Nan Gongkou was having a rendezvous with a man, he flew into a rage and came to arrest her. He planned to make a big fuss out of this matter and force the Nangong family to give up their benefits. Who would have thought that he wouldn't be caught? Seeing that Zhang Xiu was so arrogant and didn't put him in his eyes at all, Zhujiu Ichiro was even more furious. "Since when was it your turn to be so arrogant? Mr. Zhang, what is your position in Zhongnan?" This matter couldn't be settled like this. Seeing the blue veins on Zhujiu Ichiro's forehead bulging out in anger, Nan Gongkou couldn't help but want to cover her face. However, the person standing in front of him was Zhang Luoxia. Even the men of Zhujiu Nunnery had to be respectful in front of him, let alone his son. However, Zhujiu Ichiro didn't know that the person standing in front of him was the most powerful man in Hua Nation. "You don't have the right to know?" Nan Gongkou hurriedly interrupted and said, "Zhang Xiu is also involved in a biological group. The local biological group in Zhongnan is called Zhongnan Biological Group. He is the vice president of the group." Well, the caddy was promoted to vice president. "Are you in the same industry?" Zhujiu Ichiro's bright eyes stared at Zhang Xiu. Those who opened biological groups were all divinity discoverers. In other words, Zhang Xiu in front of him was a warrior. "I wonder what is the highest level in Mr. Zhang's group and how long does it take to train a high-level warrior?" This was a very direct question. However, Zhang Xiu answered him and said, "The highest level should be a god. It takes about a month to train a high-level warrior." "What?" Nan Gongkou cried out involuntarily and stared at Zhang Xiu in disbelief. Nan Gongkou knew that Zhang Luoxia had a secret biological group. It was said that there was a god in his biological group, and Zhang Xiu himself was a god. In fact, there were already 2 gods in Skyline Biological Group. These 2 were both Li Puti's original disciples. Nangong Ko didn't know about this. What she was truly shocked about was that Zhang Xiu said that he could train a high-level warrior in a month. The Nangong family had trained her with all their strength. Even with her outstanding talent, it still took her almost 3 years. Ha ha ha. Jujo Ichiro laughed out loud and said, "You Chinese people really like to brag. It only takes a month to train a high-level warrior. Let alone your biological group, even Japan's Jujo Biological Group, America's Citibank Biological Group, and Europe's Nikola Biological Group can't do it." Zhang Xiu said, "If you can't do it, then it's your incompetence." The Divine Phoenix rune was a high-level divine rune. It wasn't bad even in the immortal martial continent. The potential of the god's blood was limitless, but they couldn't develop it at all. Baka! The men behind Jujo Ichiro all took a step forward angrily. "How dare you insult our young master? Do you know that this is a capital offense?" Jujo Ichiro raised his hand and gestured for them to calm down. The Japanese people who almost pulled out their katanas suppressed the anger in their hearts and said, "Let's not talk about whether your biological group can train a high-level warrior in a month. You said that your biological group has a god." Humph, humph. There are only a few gods in your country. May I ask which one you are referring to? Zhang Xiu said, "You're ignorant. How many gods do you know of in my country? How many have you seen?" Jujo Ichiro glared at Zhang Xiu angrily. He then glanced at Nangong Ko and said, "Miss Nangong, so this is your friend? Who is he? Don't tell me he's your lover?" Of course, Nangong Ko wouldn't admit it and said, "Juju-kun, don't talk nonsense. This is an important business partner of mine. His biological group is very powerful in Zhongnan." Humph. Jujo Ichiro's face turned pale. "I've been in Zhongnan for so long, but I've never heard of a creature from Zhongnan." The man behind him took a step forward and whispered in Jujo Ichiro's ear, "I've investigated it. There are no creatures from Zhongnan in Zhongnan. This man is a liar. He's a liar who stole Miss Nangong's heart." Nangong Ko said angrily, "Nonsense. Jujo-kun, let me give you a piece of advice. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want." "You're slandering me." Jujo Ichiro said, "Slandering you? It's not up to you to decide whether or not I'm slandering you. Let's go back to Zhongnan and ask your grandfather, Old Master Nangong, to judge. What did a man and a woman do in an undeveloped holiday cabin in the suburbs?" Nangong Ko felt guilty and her face turned red. "Don't try to put a label on me. Also, it's none of your business. We haven't gotten married yet. Even if we did get married, it's none of your business." Jujo Ichiro said domineeringly, "If you marry me, the greater nation, you have to listen to everything I say." Zhang Xiu turned his face to the side and laughed secretly. "You're already like this, yet you're still thinking so highly of yourself?" Jujo Ichiro didn't see it, but Nangong Ko clearly saw the smile on Zhang Xiu's face. She knew what this brat was so proud of. She was angry and helpless. She hated that she had to deal with such a guy. She was so angry that she kicked Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu was suddenly attacked and screamed, "Why did you kick me?" Nangong Ko said fiercely, "I'm going to kick you to death, you bastard." Jujo Ichiro was dumbfounded. "Do you have any shame? Do you have any scruples? Flirting in front of me without any scruples? Baka baka. You. Okay, let's go back to the Nangong family and ask Old Master Nangong to judge." Nangong Ko said, "If he wants to judge, then so be it. We're innocent, so what are we afraid of?" Zhang Xiu nodded in agreement. When Jujo Ichiro arrived at the Nangong family, he angrily barged in. His anger was so strong that the people around him all avoided him. The servants already recognized him and knew that he would be the future grandson-in-law of the Nangong family. However, there was another man beside Nangong Ko. He was so handsome that he looked like a god. When many people saw him, they felt a little dizzy and mysterious. He was too perfect, so perfect that they couldn't take their eyes off him. They couldn't help but marvel at the magic of the Creator. His mysterious and distant aura was even more amazing. Who is he? What's going on? Chapter 409. In his previous life, Zhang Xiu had come here once. He was like a poor country boy, but this time, he was Zhang Luoxia, the ruler of China. His state of mind was completely different. He glanced around, and everything inside was almost the same as in his memory. This place also left a deep impression on him. It wasn't a feeling of mockery and ridicule, but a completely different kind of feeling. It was a feeling of warmth. It was in this warmth that the annulment of the engagement was a matter of course. It was rare that the Nangong family didn't act arrogantly, which made Zhang Xiu, who was as lowly as an ant at that time, feel a bit of respect. Although the engagement was annulled, the way they did it made him feel respected. At that time, Nangong also left a good impression on him. He didn't expect that after brushing shoulders with her in his previous life, he would be able to have a brief relationship with her in this life. Nangong said, "I'll ask the servants to make a pot of tea for you. You don't have to go in. I can handle this. Otherwise, you can leave first. Don't you want to go back to Jiangnan?" She wasn't worried that Zhang Xiu would be wronged. The one who could make him feel wronged probably hadn't been born yet. She was worried that if the Nangong clan's words offended Zhang Xiu, then it would be troublesome. "I'll sit in the garden for a while. I'm a bit hungry. Get me something to eat and a pot of tea," Zhang Xiu ordered casually as he walked towards the open space in the garden. Nangong said, "Again?" Zhang Xiu said, "I won't eat too much this time." Bah! There was a round table and a chair there. He remembered that the annulment of the engagement was written there. At that time, the Zhang family was still around, so the annulment had to be written. Now, the Zhang family was no longer around. Except for a few people in the Nangong family, no one knew about it. There was no need to mention it again. It was already close to dusk, and the shadows of the trees in the garden shone on Zhang Xiu's body, making his godlike image even more charming. His incomparably handsome face was completely shrouded by the shadows, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. When he went down the mountain to serve the snacks, his hands were trembling. After staying in the Nangong clan for so many years, she had never seen such a person. It was as if he had completely merged with the world, and this place had become mysterious and unpredictable because of his appearance. "Sir, please eat something first." Inside the Nangong family, Elder Nangong personally received the news of Zhou arrival. Elder Nangong wasn't very old. He was about 10 or 20 years older than Zhang Yishan and could be said to be in his prime. His name was Nangong Mu. The Nangong family had gone through ups and downs. They had been silent for a period of time under Nangong Mu's father. Then, Nangong Mu restarted his career by relying on the Zhang family. Later on, the family's development became better and better. Even after he left the Zhang family, he still didn't go downhill. Instead, he became a substitute for the central government and was one of the 20 most authoritative people in China. However, such a person had to personally welcome Zhuzhou, not because he was the future grandson-in-law of the Nangong family, but because of the Zhuzhou family's godly figure, and also because of the Zhuzhou family's powerful influence in Ri Nation. "Mr. Zhuzhou, what's going on?" A middle-aged man who was accompanying Nangong Mu had a strange feeling when he saw Zhuzhou angry face. Even Nangong Mu furrowed his brows. "Humph." Zhuzhou snorted coldly. He was very angry and arrogant. After all, this was his future elder. "You'd better ask Miss Ko, or why she went to a wooden resort in the suburbs with a wild man." "What?" Nangong Mu and his son Nangong Jin's expressions changed drastically. "Mr. Zhuzhou, is there a misunderstanding?" Nangong Liang believed that his niece would do such a thing. Nangong Ko-er was one of the most outstanding members of the third generation of the Nangong family. She was very ambitious and always had her eyes on the top of her head. She didn't even take men seriously. Misunderstanding? Jujo Ichiro became even angrier. Is the Nangong family planning to cover for her? She was caught red-handed by me. Hearing this, Nangong Liang and his son couldn't keep calm anymore. Some of the wives and third-generation members of the Nangong family also looked at each other in confusion. They could imagine that such a thing would happen to anyone else, but they couldn't imagine that it would happen to Nangong Ko-er. No way. However, no matter how much they didn't believe it, Jujo Ichiro had already questioned them. The members of the Nangong family felt embarrassed, especially old Master Nangong, who was an old-fashioned and serious person. His old face turned red, and he couldn't keep calm anymore. Where is Ko-er? Find her for me. His granddaughter was caught having an affair with a wild man. This was simply outrageous. Old Master Nangong was about to explode. The dignified Nangong family, a prestigious and powerful family, had lost all face. At this moment, Nangong Ko-er also hurriedly came in. Unless she was really caught on the bed, she wouldn't admit it even if she was beaten to death. Jujo Ilong, don't slander me. We are just ordinary friends. In front of the Nangong family, she couldn't say that she was just a business partner. They all knew that the Nangong family was a business partner, so she changed her words and said that they were just friends. Friends. I remember you just said that you were a business partner. The other party is also the vice president of the Zhongnan Biological Group. Nangong Mu frowned. Although he was pursuing an official career, his family mainly focused on the development of biological groups, so he was very familiar with all the major biological groups. Because of his good foresight, he had already started to develop biological groups before the world's change was obvious. He was much earlier than many people in the market, and that was why the Nangong family's Emperor Nwa biological group had such a large market share in China. Is there a difference? It is just a meeting between friends. Ha ha ha. Jujo Ichiro sneered. Friends? My retainer has already stayed in the wooden house to ask about everything. You two arrived at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and the two of you went into the bedroom after lunch. After that, you two went out to swim. It was only when my car arrived that the two of you hurriedly went to the golf course to play. Nangong Ko-er said, Don't talk nonsense. Don't make such a big fuss here. Do you think I don't know what you are planning? Isn't your Jujo family trying to force us to give up more of our interests? Nangong Ko-er wasn't someone to be trifled with. She immediately pointed out the scheme hidden deep in his heart. Enough. Nangong Mu shouted angrily. Don't you think it's embarrassing enough? In fact, anyone with a discerning eye could see that when normal friends met, especially friends of the opposite sex, they wouldn't go to such a remote place and stay alone for so long. Grandpa. Nangong Ko-er looked at Nangong Mu, and her pretty face became hot. This angry shout was equivalent to telling Nangong Ko-er that he believed Jujo Ichiro's words. Nangong Ko-er was caught having an affair with another man, which made Nangong Ko-er feel ashamed and disappointed. She didn't think she had done anything wrong when her grandpa didn't support her. She had done enough for this family. Over the years, she had been constantly making herself stronger and running around for the family. She believed that no one in the entire third generation had contributed as much as she did. However, all she got in return was an angry shout. She felt very disappointed that her grandpa chose to side with someone else instead of her. This was because before she came here, she didn't worry about the Nangong family's attitude. Nangong Ko-er's face became pale, and her eyes became red. Grandpa, don't you believe me? Nangong Mu frowned and said, Shut up. Jujo Ichiro snorted coldly, as if he didn't care about Nangong Ko-er's behavior. Old Master Nangong, you have to give me an explanation for this matter. Otherwise, the Jujo family won't go through with this marriage, and we won't cooperate with Emperor Wa Biotechnology. Hearing this, the Nangong family members' expressions changed. How could this be? The Nangong family had already prepared everything, and they had already invested all their money. If the Juzhou family didn't play with them, what would happen to Emperor Hua biotechnology? Where is that man? Call him over and give Lord Juzhou an explanation. Old Master Nangong was also very angry. The Nangong family couldn't lose the Juzhou family. Now that this matter had happened, the Nangong family would have to make concessions to the Juzhou family, just like Nangong Ko-er. Nangong Ko-er's expression became very ugly. Call him over? The more she thought about it, the more wronged she felt. She had worked so hard for the family, but in the end, she couldn't withstand her grandpa's rejection. With grievances, there would be resentment, and with resentment, there would be anger. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's better if you go see him yourself, so that you don't anger him. But you're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.